Meeting and.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Welcome to the month is October. October's Quality of Life meeting. I'm the chair. James, the co-chair, and we have Lucy. It's not Evans anymore. We've got last name now. It's joining us from the office. Anyway, we're going to start the meeting. We're one short of quorum, but we're going to start anyway. Hi, Nick.
Hello.
How are you? Good. We're gonna start, because I hear you have a hard stop at 6:30.
We have a protest that the office has to run out to, around
Okay,
6:30 in the area, so,
sure.
apologize for that.
So let's do it a different way. Instead of like just giving us all the numbers, why don't you tell us if there's anything specific that you wanted to report? And then we'll ask you some questions and things that we have to report.
All right, so specifically, this Venmo, con thing is still a problem. We did put up one of those automated signs in the battery and along on Bessie and West in that area, just to advise the community about this ongoing scam. If you don't know, I'll just do it briefly. It's a bunch of kids going up to, typically they're targeting like single women that are by themselves. They're going up to them, asking them to donate money to their basketball team, and more often than not, they tell them, "Give me, we have Venmo or Zelle." They hand over the phone, and instead of transferring $5 or $20, they transfer $2,000. They delete the app off your phone, hand you your phone back, and then by the time you realize, it's already too late. So that's still a problem. We have identified a bunch of these guys, but it's like a cat and mouse game. The other thing is that I want to bring to your attention a lot of recidivist arrests that we're making.
I didn't hear, recidivism. Okay.
Recidivist arrests, primarily in the pharmacies. We're starting to do more operations like that. And once we're grabbing these guys, and we see that they have an extensive history, we are bringing it to the attention of the DA's office, and hopefully, they can take a harder look and maybe keep them in longer or do whatever's appropriate. So we're doing a lot of the pharmacy operations.
When you say the pharmacies, does that mean it's drug related?
Say that again?
When you say the pharmacies, are you trying to say it's drug related? Or do you just mean
Well, just general, like the Dwayne Reeds, Walgreens,
Okay.
A lot of times you walk in and the shelves are empty because somebody just comes with their hand and just. We're constantly chasing these guys around, but we're starting to do more targeted operations and focusing more on the, like, for example, like 250 Broadway, even though it's across the street from City Hall, like every morning at between 7 and 7:30, it's the same guys that come in. It's you see them come in and we know them. We're trying to, once we grab them, once they steal something, we'll arrest them. And what we're doing is specifically with Captain Rosenthal, like now that he's taken over, like we're going directly to the DA's office and we're putting it on their radar. I'm not saying much is going to happen with that, but it seems promising that they are helping us out, and they are. I think Peter C. from the DA's office is more than willing to, help us push things along on that end.
the DA's office is here right now listening.
Hey, Nick.
Hey, Peter.
Hey, our chief of the E-Camp Bureau, which is the person we should be contacting, and you probably are, will be up here hopefully in a couple of minutes. If you're still here, if not, I will relay this to him. I've taken notes on this.
Okay.
And if we don't,
Just let them know that we are putting, we are targeting, like, going to these pharmacies and working with them to try to, because they're telling us it's the same guy every day. It's the same guy. So usually when we do arrest them, there's some valid reason, like you see their arrest history, and it is. So hopefully, I think we posted something on social media about making a recidivist arrest, and and following up with the DA's office in regards.
They can have a question. If you know who these guys are and you have photographs and they're going to the same Dwayne Reed. Why isn't the guard in Dwayne Reed stopping, preventing them from coming in?
Well, they don't have guards. They have store employees, and more often than not, these employees have been assaulted. So then that ups the charge to a robbery. There's also been a few incidents down here in the past where they've taken out needles and pointed them at the employee. A lot of the employees don't want to specifically get too involved in that. And 9 out of 10 times, from corporate, it's, you know what, they don't want their employees to get hurt. If it's just a product they want, let them take it and leave, and then we do the police report afterwards. So that's kind of seems more or less what their policy is across the board.
All right.
And one last thing, our community council meeting is on the 26th at 6 p.m. It's going to be a virtual meeting via Zoom. So if you want to spread that word amongst the community, that would help. And I'll answer any questions you guys might have.
Thank you. I'm Diane Stein. I've gotten complaint about police cars and vans parking in the bus stop at the M20 bus stop going downtown at Northmore and Varick Street. One of my friends who's come to visit me uses the bus. She's 80 years old. She uses a cane. She's got mobility problems. The bus is unable to pull over to the curb, and it's very dangerous for her to get. If it pulls over to the curb, it's easier to exit, but because the bus can't pull over, it has to let people off in the street, and it's a very dangerous situation.
All right. So
Police cars and vans, and she's reached out to Councilmember Marte's office.
right. That was relayed to me through Marte's office. I believe that condition has been addressed. That was about 2 weeks ago. If it's still a problem, let me know. I reached, because that's the World Trade Center, which is adjacent to our building. They usually, typically what happens during shift change is they'll bring when they're swapping out cars, they'll leave them in the bus stop. It's not ideal. I don't know why they've been doing that.
It's not legal.
They should know better.
They've been told to stop. So if it continues, please let me know.
Okay, there were 4 days. It was like July 30th, August 6th, September 4th, Labor Day, and Sunday, October 8th. And she hasn't been here since, so I don't know if it's a continue.
Ask if any of your neighbors can also look and see. Right, and then bring it.
Where is it? Northmore and where?
Varick Street and Northmore.
Are you close to there? Can you check and see?
I walk all the time, so I'm everywhere.
Just check and see.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Because then I want to address the assault on Rector Street.
Right. So that was one of the youth assaults that was brought to our attention. It did make its way through. The way this community communicates is great, because in that sense, I got it from 3 different entities. An arrest was made. Fortunately, there was a police officer that happened to be right there who observed it. We placed the handcuffs on the individual, and we brought him into custody. He was, we didn't release him. We brought him down. We brought him down to the courthouse. I think he was there for 24 hours or so, and he was given a next court date of November 29th and was released by a judge. I don't set that policy. We don't set that policy, but I think a lot of people were upset about the charge. It is a misdemeanor assault. It's not a felony assault. Maybe that would have made a difference, but however.
And the age of the victim has nothing to do with it?
Say that again?
The age of the victim has nothing to do with it?
No, I think it's outside the parameters of whatever the guy. I got to get the specifics for it. But usually, what ups an assault charge is typically if the victim is 65 and older, and the perpetrator there's a 10-year gap between the perpetrator and the.
So a minor a minor?
No, it only applies to 65 and over. So
So if I
that's just the way the penal law is written. You know, at the end of the day, we did charge him, we did bring him down. I know there was some talk about him residing in that in the like near the homeless the migrant shelter. I don't think that's the case. I think he's a uptown resident somewhere, and judging by his you know history, it sounds like he's just a random crazy person, which you know it's a little frustrating, but you know that you know we're seeing more and more
Okay,
in
so
that area.
Nick, a lot of the community, and Peter, you might want to join in this. A lot of the community wants to understand the process by which he was released. He's held for 24 hours, and then, yeah, and then what happens?
I mean, he was given a court date by a judge. You know, he went before a judge, and he was given, I believe, the court date. If my memory serves, don't quote me on it, but I believe it's November 29th. He was given a court date, and at that point, I mean, they don't remand him. Like he gets released, so he's got to go to court. And then,
You know what, Nick? Let Peter just address it for a second.
I can address it briefly because as soon as Gabby, and the chief of my early case assessment bureau gets here, he can address it more. But as you said, this is a misdemeanor assault case. Misdemeanor assault cases are not bail eligible. So there's no discretion on our part, on the police department's part, to do anything about it, to do anything about holding it. He does have court date. So if you have questions on how we can assure or steps that we're going to take for this person to return to court, we can get to that. But as Nick said, he has a court date. He was arrested. And since this falls under misdemeanor assault, it's not bail eligible.
Thanks.
So I guess the thing we can confirm here is he's still in the system. He's not back out.
Right.
You know, he has a return date.
All right, and so I just wanted to get that in while you were online, Nick.
It's not either Peter or Nick. So besides the senior citizen and the 10-year rule, what's the line that goes from the misdemeanor assault or the felony assault? Like, and I'm just like, you know, like 2 punches in the mouth or like, you know, like what's the line? I know that if there's a, you know, it doesn't have to just be like, does it have to be with a weapon? Or is it there, like, what's the line that goes from the misdemeanor assault? Like how?
To the next highest
Yeah.
charge.
I'll defer that for a couple.
We're actually gonna have a whole presentation by the DA's office
Our chief
on arrest to this
prosecutor is
position.
also-
Here.
Okay.
Mhm.
You know, the-
Tonight will be,
You know, but-
no, Nick has,
It's gonna be thoroughly answered by presentation.
Thank you.
and so we have 2 people online. Oh, and this one. And
Mark, unmute yourself, please.
Short background. How was it?
who is it, Mark Donovan? Yeah.
Mark, hi, Mark.
Team.
Mark?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi.
Okay, hi, how are you? Thank you for
He has to vote a little loud more.
Yes, yes.
calling
speak
me.
up, Mark. We can't hear you.
my question has to do with an illegal parking scam that continues to operate on Nassau Street between Beekman and Spruce, and even around the corner and in the Pace Plaza. Brooklyn Chop House continues to block off parking spots and arrange for private parking for their customers, whereas the residents of the area can't even get to drop off anything from their cars because the street is full of patrons for Brooklyn Chop House.
do you have a copy that this is happening, or?
I've sent pictures to you guys. I will be happy to send them again.
Who are you sending them to?
First precinct.
Like who specifically? Is it the NCO?
I haven't done it in a while because nothing has happened. So I happen to be on this
You know
call
what?
for another matter, and I wanted to, since you were here,
Yeah, no,
bring it to your attention.
no, I'll bring it to the attention of I'm assuming this happens in the evening when,
Yes, it does.
so I'll bring it to the attention of the 4 to 12 supervisor. And, you know,
And you know what, Nick?
yes,
Is it possible? I'd like to have them come in because this has been going on forever. This is ridiculous already, the chop house. Can I invite them to come to a meeting, and if they come, would you come online?
sure. From what I understand though, like they're not, in the past, they haven't really been so cooperative. I've tried to, get in touch with them a few times regarding their, restaurant, shed that they have outside for other matters related to the school and all that stuff. They haven't been too responsive to me.
Give them a ticket or give them a summons or whatever you,
Well,
I mean, because they're violating the law.
well, right, if we see them doing that, yes. So I wanna, I'll bring this to the attention of the 4 to 12 supervisor. And, and at the same time, our office will also pay them a visit, just to let them know that they're on notice. I wasn't aware of this blocking off spots thing.
Oh, yeah.
All right, and
It's going on
Yeah, we talked about this before, though.
Yeah, we brought everybody
Yeah.
in, but I just wanted to add, I've called on occasions where their valet parking has interrupted traffic, whereas it backs up traffic into Park Row and into oncoming that is headed northbound on Park Road toward the Brooklyn Bridge. On those occasions, I've called 311 and I've had the police call me back and say that they, again, are aware of it and they've been on it and that they've talked to Pace. And apparently, Pace is here too, by coincidence, I wanted to mention this. They've talked to Pace and apparently there is an arrangement between the security at Pace and the restaurant. That's what I was told by the first precinct.
Okay, when it's your turn, we'll talk to you guys about, because, again, Nick has a hard stop in 4 minutes. So,
Okay.
But they said if it backs up traffic again, call us back and we'll run over there, you know.
I mean, listen, I'm personally telling you, I'm gonna look into this. And if I can't I'll probably get some better answers for you, but they can't be stuff like that. They can't be causing traffic and, if we have to start issuing violations, we'll issue parking tickets.
we will see if we can get them in here, because this has been ridiculous. We've had residents complaining about them for at least a year.
Right, and we had them in and promised not to do it again.
And they know that if they need to have a liquor license renewal, that we will not be happy with them, and they know this. So
Okay.
Nick, I know you have a hard stop. So we have one more, we have a question online, and then we have another question in the room. Marianne. Marianne?
Can you hear me?
Marianne Braverman. Hi, Marianne.
Hi. Am I unmuted?
We can hear you.
Thank you. Sorry. I had raised my hand back on the bus problem with the police cars parked there. I just wanted to add that Battery Park City in the north is full of that problem constantly with placard parking that's illegal. They park they park in crosswalks, bus stops, around the curve, at the literal curve of the corner, so that it is so impossible to see what's going on, to step out and cross. I know that those individuals are protected. If summonses were written, they would get them excused somehow. So I don't know, but this is a problem in our city because it's an embarrassment to see police officers and FBI agents just ignoring the law repeatedly and causing a lot of problems when they do it. It's not like they're in an empty, otherwise okay spot. They cause a lot of problems for people who live here, and it's bigger than us. Thank you.
These spots, if you see specific bus stops, would you please report it to us?
In the front of the library, number 1,
Can you say,
in Battery Park City. It's constant. It's constant. Weekdays, they work there on that's when I'm there to see it, is weekdays. I don't, go up that way on the weekend.
So Nick, you have another location to check out.
Okay, no, I'm aware of this location. It happens to be, there's our intelligence bureau that has all agencies down there. Unfortunately, I think they deemed River Terrace a place to park, with placards, as long as they're like approved placards, not just anybody throwing a random plaque in the window. There has been enforcement there. There has been, I know there has, we have other units that monitor when a 311 call comes over and they state that it's something to do with an NYPD plaque, all the bells and whistles go off, and it's not even us that go and check it out. It's our IAB, a version of that comes out, and they have issued summonses. But for the most part, I know if it says no standing, they're allowed to be there, because they do have an essential role. They work out of 250 Vesey in the area. But they're not supposed to be in bus stops. But if they're in bus stops, call 311. And it's not me going there. It's going to be a supervisor being dispatched to go there. So.
Good. Thank you. One more question in the room. You want to go first? Come on. She has a follow up. No, because this. What's behind that mask? Jeremy. Hi.
The question was just the background on where you were talking about before. How old was the person who was assaulted?
15.
15. And
Yeah,
how
you
old?
can say the age, you can say.
Because the 10-year thing would be.
Okay, no more conversation. Was there someone else?
Nick, I just wanted to say one more thing too. Last time you were here, you talked about, the bicyclists that weren't following the traffic rules. And somebody's really going to have a serious issue. On Broadway and John, bicyclists have their own light. They don't follow it, when they're supposed to go, when they're not supposed to go. Also on Church and Murray, it's very problematic. And there's a tremendous blind spot on Barkley, and Church. They just speed through the red light there. And so if you're coming down Barkley, if you're driving or walking for that matter, very, very dangerous.
The other thing is, the bicycle issue. Remember when we had our meeting and our introduction to Captain Rosenthal, and I brought that up? And someone else on the council also seconded that. And from all the meetings, the bicycle issue, and I know it's a citywide issue, but it's been something we've talked about constantly. So I'm not sure what kind of, we've asked this before, what kind of directions the officers been given about controlling bicyclists who are not following the rules.
Well, we have issued summonses, but there's only so much, it's hard to safely stop someone on a bicycle without getting hurt yourself or them running into somebody else. And that blind spot, I'm aware of it. We just have to do a better job of educating and having people slow down when they're approaching these bus stops.
That's also DOT.
All right.
That's also DOT. All right.
Before
Nick,
Nick goes,
Yeah.
Nick,
Yes.
it's Pete. Before you go, just addressing some of this stuff quickly about your Civitas 250 Broadway. I just want to make an introduction. I'll follow up after this meeting. We have Chief of our Misdemeanor Early Case Assessment Bureau. You want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone, and hi, Nick. Gabriel Ippolit here on behalf of the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I am the Chief of Misdemeanor ECAP, that in simple terms, our intake bureau, where we screen all arrests and we process arrests within my bureau.
So basically, like you say, if you and Captain Rosenthal are referring cases to the district attorney's office, this is his department. So if not, if you haven't met before, I'll make the 401 tomorrow morning.
Perfect. Thank you.
all right, so we know you have to run. As
Yep.
always, we appreciate it. Be safe.
Thank you.
See you on the 26th, is it? Yeah, 26th.
Yes.
And, thank you.
All right.
Bye. So now, Pace, we're gonna do Pace next. You're up.
Great, thank you. Just
Do you want to address first that issue with the,
well, I just
So now, I stood on path and I got dizzy.
Do we have any slides or anything? for you? Okay, so
No,
I can.
it's, yeah, pretty
Thank you.
pretty straightforward. Yeah, first, I'll just say, right now, I just sent an email to our Vice President for Operations and our Head of Safety and Security, reporting what I learned here this evening. And
Did you know before that we were having trouble with this chop house
No.
going on for at least a year?
I'm afraid this is the first time.
First time,
Again, I'm
okay.
relatively new. I just
Right.
started in May,
Right.
so, but what I'll say, just from my personal information, not knowing the details, I know that our security officers are contractors that are hired through a company called, I think, it's Alliance Security, so not PACE employees. I will say that I'm incredibly confident and would be quite shocked if we were aware of any arrangement that was taking place. And I can assure you that the people who sign the checks of the security officers who may be engaged in this are also unaware that this is happening. So we will most certainly be following up with the individuals with whom we have a contract to provide security and safety operations to our campus to make sure that they are aware that any kind of arrangement is not in line with our beliefs of what keeps our campus safe and secure, and a very outside of the expectations of what we have.
The chop house is a
Did you-
very
Additional trees on that side, on the Park Road side?
Great question.
When I was passing the other day, it looked like there were more trees. I'm like, oh, there's less valet parking spaces now.
It's
Because it looked like there were more trees or maybe a larger
planters.
planter
Put some great
around the
planters
tree.
in
Yeah,
there,
so you
yes.
took up some of their space.
I think that, I don't know that that was the
That
reason,
might be a
but I do
deterrent
know
of some of
there
it.
were some raised planter
Yeah.
beds that were installed recently that I can't imagine is useful to that kind of
Right.
operation.
No.
I'm afraid I'm mostly here between the hours of 9 and 6, so I haven't seen that myself, but thank you for letting me know. I'm grateful because there's nothing I love more than righteous vengeance. And this feels like a really great opportunity to give into that. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sean Coughlin. I was here last month to give a presentation on our upcoming interior renovations to One Pace Plaza. And I just wanted to follow up with you all this month to provide some feedback on some of the excellent suggestions and questions that you all have, and welcome Scott Walsh, who is a project executive from Turner Construction Company. Turner is going to be the group that's actually doing the internal renovation project for us, and he's able to answer some of the more technical questions that you all very expertly posed and that I was sadly ignorant of how to answer. So if it's all right, I'm just going to go through some of the follow-up questions and suggestions that you all had for me, report on the feedback actions and the answers that I have. Scott will do the same for some of those more specific and technical items that we had, and then happy to open it up to any additional questions to see what we're able to answer tonight or to follow up with in the coming weeks and months.
Would you just reiterate from last month what the project is and what it entails?
Sure. So this is, most folks know our One Pace Plaza building. That's the main building across from City Hall in front of Pace Plaza. It's, at least in our minds, internally bisected into One Pace Plaza West, which is closer to City Hall, and One Pace Plaza East, which is the front that faces Gold Street and Southbridge Towers. So we recently, in the past couple of years, as a part of a larger master plan to renovate all of our downtown New York City campus, did a major renovation project to One Pace Plaza West. And now we're moving to an internal renovation of One Pace Plaza East. That will take place over the next couple of months. And the primary purpose of that is to give a new home to our brand new college, the Sands Performing Arts College. We spun our School of Performing Arts out from a program within the Dyson School for Science and Arts into its own separate college. It's been so successful. We're very proud to be included in Playbill's top 10 schools represented on Broadway. So we thought it was time to actually start making a serious investment in this program that's very up and coming. So that's going to be the new home with a number of new performing arts spaces that I think I said last time. That another point is we love hosting community events in these spaces. We've hosted gubernatorial and mayoral debates in our theater spaces before. This will give an even greater and more modern venue for many of those. And we look forward to welcoming many community members into those spaces once they're completed.
So how long will the project take?
It will wrap, I believe, in 2026. So
probably 6 months after I'm dead and buried in the ground due to stress of finding out security officers are in anyway.
And then when do you expect it to start?
The internal work has already begun, like we've cleared out the space of all of our stuff, and Scott and his team are in the process of hanging up plastic wrap and getting out filing cabinets and pieces of furniture. The external effects that we expressed last time, the erection of the construction fence and the shift and the removal of the on-street parking along the the west side of Gold Street. So you've got Gold Street between One Pace Plaza East and that like HPD office building in Southbridge Towers.
Right in front of your.
Between 100
Yes,
Gold
exactly.
Yeah.
There's like 7 or 8 on-street parking spots there that are mostly taken by city employees with placards. That will be moved to make more pedestrian space to accommodate more pedestrians with the erection of the construction fence there. And then the on-street parking on the south side of Spruce, so in front of 8 Spruce, the Spruce Street School and New York Presbyterian, that on-street parking, that on-street metered parking, that will become the through lane to accommodate that to maintain a single lane of traffic on Spruce Street.
Head is going no. So how are you going to replace those parking spots?
We will not.
And I'm not sure I understand why Pace has the right to take away parking spots from the residents that live in the community.
Sure, and again, we're happy to talk about it. I personally asked to come to the District Service Council meeting. I didn't get the invite. I'm happy to attend the next one with the Department of Transportation. All of these plans are done in consultation with the Department of Transportation. So if they tell us no, we come up with a different plan. This is just the plan that we thought had the least mitigation, especially on through traffic. Because I know that was an issue that was raised by the co-chair on the effects of through traffic in this area. The proposal that we have will have no changes in the through traffic lanes.
So why do you need those spots so you're saying on the south side of Spruce Street?
With the erection of the construction fence, and Scott can go into more details about the rationale for the construction fence, because I'm a dummy and I don't know. So the construction fence will extend into Spruce Street. So in order to accommodate the single lane of through traffic along Spruce Street.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I know you have questions that you want to answer, but I'd like to ask Scott because
Please.
we're talking with the phone. So, Scott, I don't understand. You need a fence because you need a staging area. So you need one lane of traffic for your staging area. You're going to erect the fence, correct? So that you can stage from that one lane of traffic.
Well, 2 purposes, but yes, I mean, part of the purpose is for staging around the construction site, but primarily that fence on Spruce Street and in Gold for that matter, it's primarily set up for public protection. This fence is to delineate the construction operations from the public, so we don't have any interface with the public in a direct.
Right, so no one will walk on that side of the street.
On our side of the street,
Gotcha.
and that way we have direct pathways for the.
So that leaves 2 lanes. One that's a drive lane, one that's a parking lane. Why do you need to take part of the parking lane on Spruce Street?
So in order to maintain DOT stipulations, we need 11-foot clear, we need a 5-foot clear for the bike lane as well. The bike lane and the parking lane will both now become shifted with also 5-foot clear bike lane and 11-foot clear drive lane. The fence will actually be located just on the south side of the parking lane on Spruce Street. So the fence will be in basically the middle of the roadway, if you will. Not quite in the middle, but you know what I'm kind of
It
saying.
takes up part of the.
Yeah, so in order to get the clearances on the construction side with the
Right, the
sidewalk and the clear lanes for a drive-through, so we don't have construction traffic sitting in the middle of the road, we need a clear lane on the
I got
construction
you. I
side.
can.
So you're saying they're not gonna take the city bike, they're just gonna move it?
City Bike has already been moved, actually. We coordinated with DOT, their operations manager and senior.
But you are taking 6 parking spots.
On
the south side.
Once the construction.
So, and DOT has approved this, but we have a lot of traffic on Spruce Street. And so I'm not sure, especially during rush hour. So I know you had this conversation with DOT. I'm not sure I understand why DOT, are they going to alert residents that live there that this is happening?
So as following my conversation with you all last month, I went to Southbridge Towers gave them my information and attended their monthly community meeting. I connected with their co-op board president, Adam. Give me, I don't remember his name, last name, Adam Sinowski. And the management at Southbridge Tower, made sure they had my information and shared all of the information with them for sharing to their residents, as well as contact information for the university if they have any
Okay,
issues.
so hold on a second. Did you get the information? Who
I
lives there?
got the information from him that he had talked to Sanella, who is the general manager, so, I mean, I know that's true, but I haven't received anything from Southbridge saying this is gonna happen.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know
Who else did you reach out to?
we shared with the board, and we're preparing a more. The presentation we gave last time, that was the presentation I gave to Adam. We shared that with the board. He thought that might be a bit long to share wider. So this week, we're preparing a more condensed kind of one pager
Okay.
along with contact information in case anyone has any issues.
Was the approval from DOT before or after the garage collapse?
After.
Because that has changed a lot.
Yeah,
A lot of,
back in April. So I would say we're still in the approval process with DOT. They're reviewing the documents right now. So again, it's well within their rights to say.
Oh, so it has not been approved?
No, that's why we came last month.
DOT has not approved?
We're coming early and often. That's why I'm back here this month to have these conversations and keep you all updated every step of the way.
So if DOT doesn't approve, you're gonna come up with another plan, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Sounds good, because we don't want DOT to approve it.
Sure.
So we will approach them, tell them that we don't want it approved.
Absolutely.
Because I think it's totally unfair to take spots away from, we have very little parking down here as it is.
well, Ann Street's gone, right? It's completely removed from the equation because it's closed. So that was 2 lanes of parking that are gone because of the collapse. And it also brings, I talked about it the last time we were here, it also brings the school buses from the school on Ann Street to Gold Street. We have the EMS on Gold Street. I wanted to, after I got out of my car the other day, after I pulled into the garage, I was like, I should have video, because I almost couldn't get into the garage because an EMS truck was literally in front of the garage, leaving like barely a lane, like I had to squeeze past it to enter the garage. And that was because the rest of the street was taken up. So if, God forbid there's a medical emergency, there's a fire, there's something. I don't know how this is gonna work, to be honest with you. There's one street that goes east and one street that goes west. They're both one way, unless you can make it all the way to Fulton. There's Spruce and there is Beekman, and that's it. What about you have I saw like them building like a shed or something on Frankfurt. Is that part of this?
Is not, no, that shed is being built for the local law 11 work on the hospital building.
Okay.
Yeah, there'll be similar work that pays WP to do on the facade of One Big Plaza. That would be, we're trying to coordinate with Pace to have
The
that happen
plaza
within
itself?
construction fence.
So that doesn't interfere.
More pump protection,
Right.
that way it's happening in the confines of our construction operations, that way it's.
That's fine.
Yeah.
So who else have you reached out to?
Yeah, we followed up with the hospital. Again, we've been in contact with them before, but after speaking with you all, we also forwarded the presentation that we gave to the hospital. Said, hey, here's my cell phone number. Here's if you have any questions, you want to discuss it further, please do so. Stop by the school, gave them my information. I have a meeting with this PTA.
When you say the school, you mean the Spruce Street?
Or the Spruce Street School.
Okay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah, so I'm going east to west.
Okay.
So Southbridge Towers, hospital, Spruce Street School. I left my information for the principal and have a meeting with the PTA next Tuesday morning at the school, and 8 Spruce Street. Stop by, gave them my information, told them what was happening, asked them to please reach out if they have any questions or if we can meet with them and brief.
That's the Gary building?
Yeah.
Where's the Gary building?
Yeah.
So are they reaching out to their residents?
I have not heard back.
There should probably be a heads up to the school on Ann Street too, because like I said, they're using gold for their parking, their school buses. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Anyone else?
That's Ann Street, where,
It was on William, right?
Okay.
I guess the school's still operational there, but
I'll pop over tomorrow, walk around and introduce myself. Happy to.
Right. Okay, so those are all going to be reached out to. Now, why don't you go ahead and tell us, look, I'm sorry.
Can I ask a question?
Okay, well, is it,
Can I just hit the rest of it?
Yeah.
I want to the rest of the points.
Let him get the rest of the points.
Yeah, just in case it comes up, because, a lot of this came from feedback we got at last month's committee meeting. School, hospital, veterans, stats, got Walsh, UT, City Bike. We confirmed, and Scott and Turner, confirmed this as well, that there was concern about garbage pickup and drop off happening outside of the construction hours. That will not be the case. All activity on the site will be restricted to within the allowed construction hours from the Department of Buildings. An individual, and I can't remember who it was, or if they're still here, I apologize. They asked if this is expected to increase PACE enrollment. The renovation is anticipated to allow PACE to enroll an additional 400 students, specifically in the Sands College of Performing Arts, and an additional 60 employees. Outreach, 8 Spruce Street, Southbridge. And then the last question, I believe, Mary asked about the use of Frankfurt Street. And Scott, had the ability to sort of address, they looked at that and why that didn't make the most sense for safety and logistics reasons.
As far as the utilization of the Frankfurt lot in lieu of Spruce Street, yeah, so right now, the congestion on the Frankfurt side, there is just no feasible way for us to have safe operations to get into that lot with trucking and egress with trucks coming in for delivery of materials, trash and debris coming out of the building. There's no, between the subway and the bus stop, and then turning radius to come into that lot to access the building. It's just not a feasible way safely.
I'm not visual.
On Frankfurt Street, across the street from One Police Plaza, there's that big,
One police plaza?
on the back of One Police Plaza.
And next to Brooklyn Bridge.
Yeah, next to the Brooklyn Bridge.
Okay,
There's the police in the little booth.
If you're coming
It's
down
okay,
Park
it's
Road
okay,
and then.
it's okay, what's time on it? Is it something you could address it, because I can't do.
So there's a large sidewalk there, very large sidewalk there. Where there's a train station further, like closer to Park Row. There's seating, so it's spacious. So we'd ask if that would be, maybe more feasible for them to use, rather than having to interrupt Spruce Street, which is more used by residents.
And I think you
Yeah.
highlighted for me as well that the subway and bus infrastructure present on Frankfurt as well. So I think that was everything that was brought up last month. Again, happy to talk about any other.
Was that
questions.
addressed?
No.
Was your question addressed?
No.
Let's go for
It
it.
was just basically, assuming that if the DOT plans you guys go through and the spots are taken, when the construction is finished, is it guaranteed that the spots will be put back?
Good question.
Yep,
No, because sometimes
Absolutely.
I've seen after
Exactly.
construction on my block, and it took like a year of haggling before they put the sign
Exactly.
back the way they were. No fault to the people that did the construction.
Right.
It was just a bureaucratic, like,
So if we would ask you that if DOT, you get the approval, that you specifically say to them that when your construction is completed, that you want to make sure that they give those spots back to the residents.
I will 100%.
Thank
And I would say, like, as an example of that, I just talked to our vice president of capital planning facilities because I noticed in front of, on Beekman Street, in front of our 15 Beekman building that just opened, that the sign said temporarily construction zone, no parking, da, da, da. And I said, when, yeah, the construction is done. So I'm proactively reaching out to DOT to make sure that that gets reverted.
Thank
And that was just like, that was even before.
Yeah.
I see signs like that all the time, even on the subways where they keep the sign up for like months after the thing is finished.
Well, and all it ends up, especially in Beacon notes, and there, all it just means is, as far as with placards.
Good question.
There anyway,
Thank
so,
you.
absolutely.
Go for it.
So what happened to the city bikes? You guys moved them already or?
Yes, the easternmost rack was removed, and we're in conversations with DOT and City Bike to see if we can increase capacity anywhere else in the area.
Got it.
Yeah, someone who just had my bike, just actually learned today that my bike was stolen. I'll be utilizing City Bike a lot more to get down there, so it's
So
personal.
they moved it or they removed it?
Removed it.
Got it. I thought,
And are they bringing it back?
Also, they moved it again. And it's just-
Wait, are they bringing it back
Yeah,
after the construction?
absolutely.
Okay.
I thought that they were moving, that you had said they were moving it somewhere else.
No.
What were they moving it?
Yeah, really, it's nowhere else. That's why we discussed, I'm not on Gold or Spruce, and that's why this is happening.
Yeah, I mean, there's always, so along Spruce on that block, there were 2 double capacity racks, one closer to Nassau and one closer to Gold. The Nassau had to be removed temporarily for scaffolding, that came back. And then the Gold is removed. And again, I can't wait to follow up with DOT and City Bike to say, hey, bring the rack.
Okay, great, thank you. I want to just move it along faster because we have our other, Scott, I want to ask you a question before I forget. So, Sean, we have your, during the day, you said you're there and people can reach out to you. What happens, if you're not around and there's a construction issue? We generally ask for an in real time phone number for residents and people in the area to use to call if they have a complaint or they see a dangerous situation. Can you supply us with a phone number or to reach out to Captain, the construction manager, project manager, someone?
So I am the executive on the project. I will be there full time, most likely on a day-to-day regular basis. So I'm going to be the general point of contact for Turner and the entire construction operations. Typically, a person regarding establish a call tree on if issues arise, they go through Sean and the group and filter to us, and we can address them.
So Sean isn't there, and it's, your construction starts at 8 o'clock.
Everyone has Sean's phone number.
Yeah, and I will say, I've already said, I had a constituent reach out to me about an issue last Friday at 11 o'clock PM.
That's 11. That's 11 at
11
night?
PM.
Why was there construction going on?
There was not construction, no. There were concerns about overnight lighting at 15 Beekman. And
Did you address it?
I absolutely did. I reached out to, again, at 11:15.
You satisfied?
PM. As far as anyone is
You haven't heard from them again.
but I followed up with our facilities people that evening and got a response. So
Okay, so if I'm walking down the street and I see a dangerous situation, how do I know to contact you?
how do you know how?
Yeah, how do if I'm walking down the street, I don't live there, I'm walking down the street, I see a dangerous construction situation, who do I call? How do I contact someone to say I see a dangerous situation?
One important thing, if Scott can say, we don't actually are allowed to post anything on construction fences for DOB regulations. I don't know.
But are they supposed to be posted somewhere? So like all construction has a location where certificates and contact information posted. I think what we're asking for is basically where are you going to post that and whose number is going to be there?
And can I call you at 8 o'clock in the morning and say I see a dangerous situation?
And it's never stopped anyone before, and I've always answered the phone whenever people call, and I'm happy to continue doing so. I'll say in general.
But your number is not posted, I will.
Right, no, but I'm saying in general, if you walk by any construction site, if you see an unsafe situation, you call 311. Same thing with here. You
Okay,
call
but we
311.
generally ask.
Of course, and I understand, and I provided my cell phone number, and in the same way, like, if it becomes an issue, and suddenly I'm unreliable and no longer answering my phone, we can absolutely address the situation when it comes up. As for now, I've never had somebody call or text my phone that I haven't responded to within minutes. If that starts happening and we want to revisit it with the board, again, I'll come back every month.
Let me just take Tammy's call, and because we want to visit it right now. But let me take Tammy's, go ahead.
Tammy goes before everyone else?
Yeah.
Okay, Tammy, you can unmute yourself.
Hey, thanks. I just want to give everybody an update because we were notified by DOT that there would be traffic calming measures that are installed on Spruce Street that are coming up. So I wanted to just let everybody know that because in the future, when we're talking about school and everything else that's coming through, we were notified by DOT that that location of Spruce Street was analyzed for a traffic calming speed bump on that road.
Tammy, you're breaking up every other.
So she said a traffic cop is going to be placed there at Spruce Street. DOT is.
What's gonna be placed?
A traffic cop or.
Oh, traffic cop.
No, not.
Calming measures are being probably, and Tammy, correct me if I'm wrong, are you talking about the speed bump that's on Spruce being Nassau and Gold?
Yep.
So I think what Tammy may have said is DOT alerted the board that the traffic calming measure of the speed bump on Spruce between Gold and Nassau will be removed. I don't know that we've gotten that notification.
It's not removed. It's going to be fortified.
What?
It'll be strengthened.
Phone's off, Tammy, Kenny.
Hold on a second. It'll be strengthened because they've looked and they've
You're
said,
underwater, Tammy.
sorry, I have a cold.
No, that's not the cold.
Yeah.
Your call's breaking up.
All right, so you said the calming measures, the speed bump will be, the height will be increased, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anything else you wanted to tell us?
Now she's muted.
Okay, she said no, okay, going, which one? Oh, I still wanna go back to the, well, we'll go back to the numbers.
How does that go with traffic?
I think you, and first, just a little down.
It's a good thing in many areas.
Just slow them down.
That's more traffic. That doesn't help with traffic.
Okay, we have somebody on line.
Traffic, this bridge have safety.
Chad.
Yes, hi. I'd like to address Sean. Sean, my wife is Claire Razzolini. And we live at 140 Nassau, 5B, right in line of sight to the library in 15 Beekman. You seem to think that the situation has been resolved, but all I've heard so far is talk. There are shades coming down, but it does nothing to diminish the brightness of the lights. And also, the seating has not been changed so that the students are constantly encouraged to look into our apartment and at our building. Furthermore, we've experienced a lot of noise and everything in the green space between us and the Geary building that really makes it feel as if we're in a college campus suddenly. I'm very unhappy about this situation and wish that you would really do something as opposed to simply send out memos.
So this is the complaint that you had earlier?
Yeah, this is what we had last time.
From the previous
Yeah.
construction,
Okay,
not from the previous construction,
oh, previous
on
construction.
the other side, the other building,
Oh,
the
okay.
building on Park Row.
So have you addressed this?
I've been in contact with Chet's wife, Claire, who's actually the individual who I responded to at 11:15 on Friday when the conditions were not met. So just to update everyone more broadly on this is about 15 Beekman, our new building that just opened up on Beekman Street and Nassau. So we are still in the process. We actually began this week, and I've been in touch with Alan, the board president at 140 Nassau, which is the building that they're discussing, and Maggie, the secretary, as well as being in direct response to, I believe, Mark is here this evening online, and Chet and Claire, that the overnight lighting is still being programmed to dim in the evening times. Unfortunately, it wasn't a matter of just light switches. It was a really complicated lighting process, and this was the earliest that we can get our contractor to come in and do the programming. So that work has started in earnest this week, actually on Monday, to go through floor by floor and install programming to dim the lights in the evening time and overnight. And as
Oh,
well
so
as
it isn't just
activate
one
motion
place, it's every floor?
Absolutely. We're going floor by floor with each individual system, which started this week. In the meantime, while this process happened, we installed a very rigorous procedure in which at 7 p.m., all the shades throughout the building were lowered down halfway in order to block the overhead light as much as possible, and then down all the way between 9 and 10.
And when did that start?
That was the 10th was when we inflicted that, and that day that we made the commitment for that to take place, that was when Claire reached out and noted that that commitment hadn't been met that I had made, which is what led to me sending, I would say, a very strongly worded email to my colleagues that evening at 11:30, alerting them of that fact, and then an even strongly worded email the next day, alerting them to how upset I was that I had made a commitment in my name and in the name of the
And so on the
university
11th,
that
did it
had not
happen?
been met. Yes.
It happened
And-
on the 11th?
Well, and since then, I can say that the program of lowering the shades at our committed hours has taken place, which I think Chet acknowledged.
What are the committed hours?
As I just said, halfway down at 7 and then between 9 and 10.
And what time is the lighting being programmed to dim?
So it's different for each space, right? Which is part of the conversation. So we have, some spaces are 24-hour spaces that which is, we have students who are studying for their time. I remember spending plenty of all-nighters back in my day.
Let me start. Chad? Chad, unmute yourself.
So I would just say, we have made commitments and we are in line with those commitments. I understand that people are frustrated with those commitments not moving as quickly as they
Right,
would like.
let me just hear from Chad. Chad,
Yes, I'm here.
did you have the shades been coming down?
The shades have been coming down, but they're translucent and they don't do much to break down the brilliance of the light. The other situations have not been addressed. The students and the seating, and just the general atmosphere of a college campus. I did not invest in my apartment in that building to be in the middle of a college campus, and that seems to be what the situation is.
The college has been there for a long time, so we know we have young people and we know how young people are.
No. I'm sorry. That's not the situation. The campus has been on the other side. Now the dorm down the street on Beekman isn't a concern at all, and it hasn't been a problem. This new 15 Beekman is like a college campus on itself. It has food services, it has libraries, it has dormitories, and all of that amounts to them occupying the area. Sorry?
That it's all night long, is that what the issue is?
Oh, well, what's all night long? Yeah, the students are there during the day, the lighting is on all night long, the noise in the park, yes, all of it. And I don't hear anybody addressing any of that stuff. And frankly, I am disappointed that consideration for the neighborhood wasn't built into the initial design of the building. The building architecture, as far as I'm concerned, is aggressive, and it's arrogant, and it's cynical, and it is self-contained.
Okay, so Chad, the building is built, we can't do that. We can only address the issues that we can address. So the lighting, so when do you think that the lighting?
We started it this week. So some floors are already in place. I've asked my team, and I'm frustrated that I didn't receive a response before this meeting. I let them know that I was coming this evening and I wanted an update on the timeline of how the programming was going. I'm not thrilled that I didn't get a response, and I will make that clear after this.
Can you get back to us tomorrow?
And again, I'm happy to provide a soon.
And also would you email Chad and his wife and let them know when you expect that the lighting reprogramming will be completed?
I will just speak candidly, and I think you all were involved in an email with this. The exchanges I've had with some residents have taken a personal tone toward me that I have not appreciated.
Okay.
So I communicate.
We don't approve.
So I communicate through their board president, Alan, and the secretary, Maggie, who have been strong advocates on behalf of their neighbors, but have not resorted to personal character attacks.
Okay, and
I will
you're right, that is
do so as we get those updates.
Okay, so
Can you
tomorrow,
Did you get to say what the remedy for the 24-hour lighting was gonna be?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
how that was gonna be?
Every floor is going to be programmed, so motion sensors for the most part. So,
Oh, okay.
So, yeah.
and that's what I'm asking.
So if somebody enters the room at 2 in the morning, the lights are gonna come on?
But it's
and
not
how
going
would
to
that-
get to the full level. Like, that's part of the nuance is like figuring out the appropriate level where someone isn't tripping and falling and suing us because the lighting is too low, but that it isn't inappropriate.
I have another question.
Of course.
Why are the shades transparent or translucent? Why can't we change the shades to be more opaque?
I'm happy to show photos of the
just
the situation. Again, those decisions were made before I arrived. I can't speak to, and I'm happy to follow up with the architect and find out.
Is it the architect or is it the building?
The design.
Yeah, we don't select.
So the shades were installed.
They're called solar shades. I don't know exactly.
Is it the actual window that changes color like your eyeglasses do, or the shades that come down?
Sounds like you need hotel blackout shades.
The architect probably just liked the way they look for his architecture and not.
But, okay, so can we please address that? Because and maybe it's not in every area. Maybe it's just in some areas where you need to change the shades.
And part of my communications with our local neighbors has been to thank them for the patience, not just for the past couple of months, but the past couple of years of construction, and this is a new building. And
I have to tell you though, that, I have friends who lived in that building and this has been an issue for a while.
Of course. Oh,
So,
understood.
yeah,
And
I can understand people being
in
impatient.
my time last month here, I completely accepted and validated and took responsibility for the
Okay,
actions.
so if you could just get, because we have some other calls.
Of
Mark Donenfeld again? Okay, so if you could just get back to us with some idea on when
I think
this new
Mark will likely
program.
have much of the same
Yeah.
feedback that.
Hi, Mark.
Hi. Pat, thank you again. Sean, thank you for your presence at the meeting. I, as you know, am not one of those people who attacks you personally, just presents issues. And one of the issues that you brought up that doesn't seem to be rectified as well as you're proposing to the board or is reporting to the board is the idea that your shades come down on a schedule. They do not. I am directly across from your building, and it is not a clockwork operation. The shades do not fully come down between 9 and 10. Very often they come down 11:30. That's number one. Number two, you did promise us this all was going to be done on the 10th of October. This program should have been included in your original construction because of the city codes for energy use. And currently, you guys are in violation. I don't know if you have a PCO or a C of O, but I think you need to up your game, Sean. I respect your coming to the board meeting. I respect your replying to my communications, but you know, I'd like to see some more results. And this is just further evidence of PACE and how they respond to their neighbors. Throughout the construction, you violated permits. You were fined. It was fine as far as you were concerned. You worked, around the clock. It didn't matter. You weren't there. I understand that. And I understand there's a new sheriff in town. But I'm sorry, but just the responses that we're getting seem like more of the same lip service that we've gotten in the past.
Mark, I hate to interrupt you, but we only have another 4 minutes on this topic. And Sean has promised that tomorrow he will get back to us with an update. It may not mean that the actual, scheduling of the lights will happen tomorrow, but Sean's gonna get back to us tomorrow with an update. And every day, I hope Sean is gonna reach out with a current update to let everyone know how this new project is proceeding.
Pat, just one last thing. If this is endemic of the way PACE behaves and they're about to do another project, I have grave concerns for its impact on the neighborhood.
Okay, well, Mark, you were on the board and you know me, so.
Yes, I do.
If there is a problem, you're gonna call and we are going to have a discussion with Sean, right?
Yes.
Okay, so from my mouth, right?
Okay, thank you.
Good. You're welcome, Mark. Somebody else? No, man. Okay, anybody? Yes?
One question for you, Sean. They addressed like the issue with like the seat facing out. Can y'all just turn the chairs around or move those chairs?
The seats are modules, so we can arrange it however we like. If the student decides that they would rather face their chairs towards the window.
But this is the library, right? So the librarians and the library staff more so get to determine that. I'm a librarian that's worked in the public, like a university library. We get to say, no, don't move those chairs, even if they have the ability to.
I will say, and I will always answer. The answer may not be polite, and I've done this on this issue as well. I don't know if there's an appetite within our professional library staff to police the direction that seats are posed or to discourage students.
Or just move them. Just move them.
I would love, I'm happy to give a tour to anyone of our libraries. We don't, it's It's all filled
allowing
with seats,
students to look.
and it's all the seats are full. So I'm happy to take anyone through the space and show them how.
Yeah, see what's going on. I think there are, so let's arrange to do something
great.
like that. And Mark, if you're still on, you might want to join the tour. And Chat, you might want to join the tour.
Yeah.
And let's go in that building and see what some of the issues are.
I invited the board and its members, I'm not sure if that got shared, our ribbon cutting ceremony at 15 Beekman that we did tours of. I'm happy to arrange for. a
Okay,
special
so let's do that. We've got to
So
move
with
on.
well, I have questions for you about this upcoming construction. So, right, sorry. So can you talk about, so we just kind of like browsed over that, like pickup or like trash disposal is gonna happen like during construction hours. What does that mean? What are the hours that y'all are gonna be working on?
DOT stipulates we're 7 AM to 6 PM.
And then usually as quality of life, we actually ask, so is there possible for y'all to start later? Usually about 8 AM.
What are we
That's
talking about?
the construction and disposal of materials.
And what?
The DOT stipulated hours of 7 AM to 6 PM.
Okay, this is the last, because I gotta cut this off.
Yeah.
So what's the answer? Do you have an answer?
Yeah, the answer is we're gonna be performing work during the hours that DOT stipulates, which is 7 AM to 6 PM. And we're taking every measure to mitigate, starting work later. We're also mitigating the most of our trash and debris coming out on the northeast corner and the extra scheduled loading dock that's currently existing right now. So we're gonna try to mitigate as much as possible.
And that's gonna be during those hours. That's
During
not gonna
those
be
hours.
after.
Okay, now the only thing I want to say, this is an ongoing project. So aside from planning to have a tour, this is an ongoing project. Let's, we'll have lots of questions for you.
If the committee would like me to come back-
A lot of Sean will be back. Would you come back about that?
I want to address it now because they basically said that
We've
they've
got to
been
move
bad
on.
neighbors.
We've got to move on. It's
So,
quarter after. We have to move on. We have, the DA's office is here and they have a hard stop.
yeah,
And so we've got to address this. We will be reaching out. You'll be contacting us tomorrow about the what's going on. And would you come back? This is October, November, December. Would you come back in December, please?
Absolutely, happy to.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
And we'll have a date on the tour.
Yeah, we'll get it online. We'll set up the date for the tour. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Have a good evening.
Okay, presentation on arrest to disposition with Gabriel, I don't want to miss, not sure, okay, thank you.
Is that right?
Yes, I was, born in Haiti.
Haiti?
Yes. Can everyone see me? Is this, easy if we have it this way?
As long as you buy the owl, they can.
They can hear you, yeah, you're facing it, yeah.
Yes,
For
you
the
can.
folks online, can you just get rid of the side slides and just make it one big slide, so more like slideshow?
Give us patience. I'm working on both sides.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Just seems like you're gonna have to fix your stupid show.
Yeah. Yes. I'll put the clicker over there.
I don't know if the clip is gonna work, but you can try.
So while we are engaging, and I'll just go over your CRP. While we are setting up, I figured that this may be a good time to take any questions, just because I know that there was some delays. Yeah, and if you don't mind, just stating your name, so I know.
Mitchell Froman.
Hi, Mr. Foreman.
Froman.
Apologies.
No, that's okay. So basically, it's Peter?
Yes.
Was saying before, he was talking about misdemeanor assault versus, and then felony assault. And so I was just wondering, I mean, I know if there's a weapon, it's probably a felony, but like, what's the line you have to cross? And like I said, just like hypothetically, a certain amount of punches or a certain amount of damage, like from the misdemeanor assault to the felony assault, like what's that line that's, aside from the senior citizen and the 10-year difference, the actual damage where, going from one to the other?
Sure, so, and I'm going to just really loosely touch on this.
General,
because in general, since there are a lot of different aspects in terms of how you would have an assault in the third degree, which would be the misdemeanor assault, and then a felonious assault in terms of an assault in the second degree. One of the main aspects is that intent to cause serious physical injury is how you gain that felony in comparison to the misdemeanor. For the misdemeanor, you have to have an intent to have physical injury. And so how the courts have to define that is that there needs to be something more, there needs to be some form of substantial pain in terms of recognizing that injury. And so it is slightly more technical, but we review all these cases on a case-by-case basis in terms of understanding that. You would be surprised, there have been cases in Manhattan where it's been like a one-punch homicide, but because of that, that individual did not intend to actually commit that, so we had to prosecute some of those cases.
But you can, like, you're on the subway, and let's say somebody just, does something bad and like starts like beating on you, but I'm stronger than the guy, but he still can't punch me. I'm not saying, and so it's just a misdemeanor because I could take the punch, but, and he could say, well, I didn't, come on, wake up today to hurt somebody. Like, I'm just trying to, I know it's a gray area.
It's a little bit more defined in terms of, but we have to look in terms of what is the intent. I think like when you see someone strike someone, that individual intends to cause injury, but we also look whether or not there was any form of injuries there. And then there's more in terms of like what is serious physical injury. The courts have defined it in terms of case law and going back and forth.
There's really not a line from, like, it's too nuanced between misdemeanor assault, felony assault. I'm not talking about the extreme cases. I'm talking about like, where it would go from that to that. In general,
it's generally just looking at that serious physical injury. Otherwise, you could also have a felonious assault, depending in terms of the conduct. So if there is a weapon involved, and there are different aspects to it that we can elevate it. But here, really, the main aspect is really looking at that intent to cause injury and what is the result of that injury. For example, just so you guys understand, like a violation for harassment, right? If there is no actual injury and someone shoves you, that is just a simple violation. And I'm going to go into the presentation to distinguish in terms of what are crimes, what are violations, but it's good for me to hear some of these questions so I can make sure while I'm dealing with this presentation for the rest to disposition to really direct you in terms of like what are the areas to answer your questions.
Diane, you have a question?
Yeah, I was thinking of that case where that woman shoved the 87-year-old music teacher, singing teacher, and resulted in her dying. I don't know. I mean, I think she did get, I think, pretty, I don't remember what the sentence was, but, she could say, oh, I didn't intend to kill her, but, I was, whatever, I just snapped and shoved her, and I didn't know she was gonna die with that,
I mean, you look at it in terms of the consequence, right, as well, in terms of what a reasonable individual would look, and we're going to cover in terms of the standards as well, in terms of what goes on with these charging decisions. And so in terms of my role within the DA's office and the aspect that DA Bright has stressed in terms of elevating that is that I was really put into this place in terms of ensuring, in terms of our misdemeanors, since that is 2/3 of our docket. And we see over, 40,000 arrests per year on average in terms of it, and 2/3 of those are misdemeanors. And so I really review all of the misdemeanor cases in comparison to the felonious cases, which we handle vertically, and I could go into that as well in terms of we have a line assistant who looks at the case. INECAP speaks with the arresting officer and carries that case throughout in terms of that continuity.
Can we let Jared's question be last, and then we have to do the presentation, who's ready now?
Quick question, if there are multiple misdemeanors charged as a result of does that ever elevate to a point of bail attaches or not?
So there, in terms of the bail laws, we'll touch upon that, but there are certain offenses in terms of which are bail eligible or not. And so just because an individual may have a voluminous amount of arrests that are charged against the individual, or if we decide in terms of having a voluminous amount of counts against the individual, that does not indicate whether or not bail would be there. The point of bail within New York State, and every state has specific bail laws, but ours is in terms of looking and assessing that flight risk. So it's not just in terms of that assessment of danger, it's really about that flight risk. The real aspect that we should have a conversation about later on is the discovery obligations. And that's what we really need assistance on in terms of what we are required to turn over and that how that has.
You're going to talk about that now, right?
And I will talk about it, and we have a great pamphlet as well in terms of demonstrating this.
There is no record review, just gonna have this.
Right, so we could start. Thank you so much. So thank you, everyone. Again, my name is Gabriel Ippolite. I am from the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and I'm going to give you a presentation in terms of what actually occurs. And I know that you spoke with an officer earlier today in terms of when there is an arrest and what occurs all the way up to the point that there is a disposition. And, one thing that I just wanted to address here is that even though there is an arrest or an individual may file a complaint, that does not mean that that individual is arrested the same day. There are a lot of aspects that go in terms of the work that our partners, in terms of the NYPD, have to engage in terms of figuring out whether or not there's probable cause. So even though you may have a situation where you said, Gabriel, I called the police, this just occurred, I reported the incident, we may not receive that because that detective or whoever is assigned to that arrest will have to do some investigative steps before they bring it to our office. And that's why you sometimes hear about, well, I saw this individual again. Let's say if we're talking about that retail theft that may occur within certain locations, right? I saw that individual again and again. Why hasn't he been arrested? Because we're waiting for the officer to actually collect all the evidence that is needed, effectuate that arrest, and that's when we start that process. So we're looking at it from once that individual is actually arrested in custody. We're going to go through each route. Do you mind? So this is our current district attorney, Alvin J. Bragg. He took office in January 1st of 2022. He is from Harlem. He was former federal prosecutor, as well as, and he's been a career public servant. He's worked at the Attorney General's office. And in his role in terms of the district attorney's office, this oversees all investigations and arrests within Manhattan in terms of all crimes as well as violations. The main aspect in terms of DA Bragg's focus is really in terms of ensuring that safety is achieved in fairness for all. And so in terms of the next slide, the way that we go about this is that we have multiple offices. The main office that we have is downtown at 100 Center Street, and that's where we're really processing a lot of the cases. We also have a Midtown court that handles certain types of cases as well. Outside of that, we have 2 offices uptown to reach some of our other members within the Manhattan community to make sure that they're available, and also have staff located with them, such as our Witness Aid Services Unit and local resources. We meet individuals within all offices, and the ADAs will always go out in terms of trying to be accessible to speak with all of our complainants and our victims. Now, in terms of the amount of individuals that we have in our office is approximately 1,500. It's all right. We have about 600 ADAs. The number fluctuates about 1,000 individuals. So it's the size of a really large law firm in terms of what you're looking at. The volume of cases is extensive. Now, we have several different divisions within the DA's office. One new aspect that has occurred under DA Bragg is that he has really stressed that pathways to public safety. And this is really looking in terms of how we could have a harm reduction, dealing with recidivists, and really tackling what is the underlying issues in terms of engaging individuals to stop engaging in crime. Outside of that, we have created a special victims division that's really focused on intimate partner violence, sex crimes, child abuse. We have dedicated line assistants working on that. We've hired more individuals in terms of advocates for our victims because we want to make sure that they're connected and have the resources that are available to them. Outside, you have your traditional divisions, such as the trial division, where you have all of your line assistants who are dealing with reactive arrests, as well as our investigative division, who does proactive investigation. So these are some of the larger cases that you may hear, as well as the appellate division and an executive division. Now, one main aspect that I really want to distinguish here is that, the people, as a prosecutor, I get up on the record and I say I represent the people of the state of New York. And that's holistic. That looks at everyone in terms of the individuals who are involved. So that includes obviously our survivor, our victim. That involves our community, such as all of you individuals. And we also have to state that involves the defendant as well, because that is an individual's accused. And we have to understand how that individual is going to come back into society and integrate in society. So whenever we are bringing a matter forth, we look at all of the factors that are involved in terms of our charging decision and how we resolve a case to make sure that everyone here is going to have a positive outcome. And one aspect that we always acknowledge, it's coming down to the DA's office. It's not the place that everyone wants to be. And so we're going to try to make this one of the most pleasant experiences for all individuals. We always aim and strive in terms of connecting with individuals who have been aggrieved, and as well as doing these presentations, such as Peter coming out to all of your community board meetings. Now, in terms of what does an assistant district attorney does, right? We investigate crimes. We determine in terms of what charges are possible. So just because an arresting officer may say, like, look, these are all the charges that I would like to charge. We are going to look at in terms of the form, whether or not that criminal prosecution is worthy in terms of going into criminal court. It is a vehement in terms of criminal court and the amount of the aspects that you have. We want to make sure that the court calendar and the matters that we're prosecuting are rightly positioned within there. And that's why some of the cases such as, jumping a turnstile, we have declined to prosecute those matters, and we have declined to prosecute that since 2016. We're looking at it in terms of these are cases that we want to move forward and handle. That's why you won't see a majority of violations in there, which are cases that would only have a civil penalty or the maximum jail time of 15 days in jail. We're really looking at those misdemeanor offenses and those those felonious offenses when we are handling a matter in criminal court. Now, we can get past these. So, now, in terms of dealing, you can keep on pressing. The violation, that is not a crime. So what is a violation? That would be like an individual who puts their feet up in the seats in the subway system, or an individual who urinates out in public, right? Those are violations. Disorderly conduct could be some form of noise complaint. A lot of these violations you could also receive as a summons for. You could go to one that are this building right here in terms of going to summons court and have that addressed. That is not really a forum in terms of criminal court. And what we handle in terms of criminal court, those are matters that are up to a year in jail if you're dealing with a Class A misdemeanor. If you're dealing with a felony, that is state prison time. And depending on the degree of the felony, it would be mandatory or not. And so that's the variation in terms of how we're seeing it. When you were giving your example earlier, when we were talking about that assault in the third degree where an individual was punching and we had those injuries, that would have been that misdemeanor. Now, let's say we didn't have that individual or complainant that was able to come in and attest to speak with the officer. We had to draft that circumstantially by looking at everything. We would have to have charged attempted assault in that matter unless we were able to describe for the judge what was going on in terms of that would be facially sufficient. And you'd be surprised in terms of the amount of information that we need to disclose later on in terms of these discovery obligations. One example is that when we do have a case that comes in, let's say it was that assault case, we would have to turn over every time we have a witness aid services unit engages with our victim or our survivor, all the references that we had. In one matter, we had disclosed to the defense counsel that we provided a taxi service. This was the amount in terms of dealing with the taxi service, but the judge actually dismissed the case because we didn't turn over the underlying receipt, even though we had a printout in all of the other matters. And that is what is going on in terms of some of the cases that we are seeing and some of the dismissals now that are occurring.
You have that, that's one of the things he handed out. I was reading while you told me.
Read it later.
You can read it later, but that's one of the aspects that I really want to stress about in terms of how you can see like dismissals have increased recently. And the reason why we're seeing those dismissals is because we're having issues with these discovery obligations. We are looking at it very differently, but I think it's important in terms of connecting with your legislatures to really discuss the discovery rules.
You said a simple technical edit would address that issue.
Exactly.
Let's wait till we finish.
Well, it's directly related to what he was saying, because otherwise it's gonna be passed over.
No, but it is those technical aspects in terms of what we're seeing and how some of these cases are getting dismissed. And these are some very violent cases. And so we want to make sure that all the cases that we're handling are being handled properly and the court understands the reasons why. We are litigating this in court. We're actively fighting it, but the bench is very different in terms of some of the reasons that we're seeing. And we can keep on moving to the next slide. Now, in terms of having an arrest, what do you need in terms of seeing there? I know that a lot of people may say, like, look, I have a complaint. I saw this individual. He did X, Y, and Z. The officer needs to have probable cause to believe. So if you have an officer who's looking at something, engages it, he needs to be able to know that. If you're telling an officer, this happened to my friend and you did not witness it, that officer actually has to speak to your friend to understand the information. And we need that information as well so we can move forward in terms of our requirements with the court and what New York State legislature has said to be able to draft that complaint. It can be very different on the felonious matter, but for the main aspects of what we see within your community, we're really dealing with those misdemeanors. And I really want to make sure that everyone understands how we handle them and how we treat each one that we review. It's extremely important and it's serious for us. Now, other aspects that we deal with in terms of it is what does probable cause mean? That is our standard of proof, right? That just means that we are having an arrest. That means that probable cause when there's reasonable basis to believe a person committed a crime, right? Police must have probable cause in all aspects to initiate an arrest. And, some of the things that give rise to probable cause was like when I was talking to you about that observation. who observed it and who's that first party individual, whether or not they were able to identify the individual. This is something that comes out as well in terms of those investigative steps with those officers, right? Even though you may believe it's so simple, I saw this individual, they committed this crime, later on that officer makes that arrest, we still need an ID procedure to confirm if that individual that you actually saw is the individual who that officer is actually arresting. And even in terms of dealing with videos become a lot better these days. We still have to make sure that the officer is able to look at the video and link it, because we don't want to miss ID. The last thing that I ever want to do is to commence a criminal prosecution against someone who did not commit an offense. And that's something that we've always taken very seriously. And that's what I just want to stress is some of the investigative process. We take statements, we look at surveillance, all of these other aspects give rise to probable cause. And we can hit the next slide. Now, within the complaint room, and this is the bureau that I am in, and this is an initiative of DA Bragg in terms of stressing the importance on all of these misdemeanor offenses, we have to allege certain facts in terms of whether or not that criminal complaint is proper. And we have to look at in terms of the factors of what is going on with that offense. So if we were looking at that misdemeanor assault, we would have to allege that there was some action where there was an injury that occurred and there was some substantial pain. And we have to include all those aspects within it in terms of making out that complaint. And if we do not have it, some of the judges would say, this may not be a misdemeanor in terms of that misdemeanor assault in the third degree. It may be an attempt, and they may move to reduce it. We've had those types of conversations with the judges, and defense counsel will make those motions, because that's what a defense counsel's obligation is to represent his client. Remember, everyone is presumed innocent until proven guilty. And so we have that burden, and that's a burden that we carry and understand the weight of it. And that's why we want to find out all of that information. So if evidence is sufficient at the stage that I am overseeing, we move forward with the prosecution. If it is not, we may decline to prosecute it. Now, something else that may occur that may be part of the aspects that has been concerned, you would say, well, Gabriel, I have heard that the DA's office is declining to prosecute some of these retail offenses in terms of the voluminous aspect. And the reason why that we're looking at this is because by statute, the longest amount of time that you can put an individual away on a misdemeanor is 2 consecutive years. So that's 2 years. So if an individual has, let's say, gone into your Dwayne Reed multiple times and the police officer come with us with 17 different arrests, we're going to move forward on 2 of those matters, but we are going to take down and hold that individual accountable for all 17. Because if we have to do all 17 arrests, we're going to have to turn over every single memo book and investigative step related to each one of those cases. And if we do not have that, that case will likely be dismissed.
Discovery.
Exactly. And so those are part of the strategic operations that we have done. And just so you understand in terms of retail theft, because that's one of the largest concerns, we've identified that 18% of the arrests that occur within Manhattan are direct result of 40% of the crime that is going on. So we're really tackling those recidivists. And we have engaged and partnered with the NYPD to identify those individuals. We have been indicting those individuals and using the tools that we can to enhance it. So when we can, we will divert those individuals and try to engage in some form of alternative to incarceration disposition, and really hoping and demonstrating that, they will not recidivate. I know that you had brought up bail concern earlier, but the data has demonstrated to us in terms of those individuals that when we are dealing with them, and I'll cover it later on, is that having a simple phone call is the best way to ensure an individual is coming back to court. It's not just stating we are going to have to impose bail. And I've been in the DA's office for a very long time. You can see certain clips in terms of if an individual is incarcerated, they would usually go back out. We're trying to really assess that root cause and reduce it. And we've been tackling that with the individuals in terms of looking at those arrests, making them felonious when it's legally sufficient, and moving forward and having the tools available in terms of really addressing that need. We can go to the next slide. I know that we are limited on time, but I am going to stay slightly later to really go through this and take some more questions from all of you. Now, the aim is that within 24 hours that an individual is arrested, he is brought in front of the court. One key aspect that I have to distinguish that has also occurred is that we have something called a desk appearance ticket. So just because an individual is arrested, they may be processed and they may be issued what is called a desk appearance ticket, meaning that they have to come back to court in 20 days, then to have their matter arraigned before the court. And we'll look and assess and draft those cases during that time. There's certain offenses that are not desk appearance ticket eligible, and those are a majority of your felonious offenses. Some of them, in terms of a lot of them, are your violent offenses, but other ones, you are supposed to issue a desk appearance ticket, and that is what the officer would do. And that's why sometimes you will state, Gabriel, again, I heard, like this individual got arrested. I don't understand why in 4 hours he's back on the street. It's because the legislature has identified that this is a matter that requires a desk appearance ticket. And then we will process and investigate that matter during that time frame that we have within that 20-day period. Now, we handle all those desk appearance tickets Monday through Friday. My bureau, in terms of the early case assessment bureau, is open 24 hours in terms of us receiving complaints. And we process and arraign them within that time frame up to 24 hours. So arraignment goes down around 2 a.m. and we are drafting cases and bringing the individual in front of the court all the way up until 2 a.m. And then we do it again starting at 9:15 the following day. And now what can occur on a majority of these cases is that we may have to say that that individual is released on his own recognizance, meaning that they're released. But we also try to impose some form of securing order to ensure their return, such as that phone call. And that's what supervised release is. And then you have your other conditions, such as whether bail or bond is set and when it is eligible, and looking at what are our requirements in terms of ensuring that individual's return to court. We will request it when it is applicable. We can go to the next slide outside of arraignment. So again, all of the individuals that are in a criminal court arraignments, you have your assistant district attorney, you have your defense counsel, you have the judge, you have your court clerks, you have your court officers. So there's several different individuals that occur that affect that 24-hour time frame in terms of when we receive the paperwork, in terms of processing it, and when that individual is arraigned in court. And that's just formally telling the individual what he is being charged with. And also stating that's when we would be requesting an order of protection or other aspects that we will connect with. And on a lot of our cases, especially our domestic violence cases, we are reaching out in ECAP to speak with our complainants initially to understand the severity of the crime. We are also doing that on several other types of cases as well, such as our forcible touching cases, our sex crime cases. We do reach out in terms of having a witness aid services unit connect with all of our victims within a time frame which is relatively should be between 24 to 42 hours as we are processing the case. So there is some time frame that we have to look at it before it's assigned to an individual to connect. And we want that continuity in terms of the individuals who are speaking with the complainant. And Peter's right now handling out some of the services that we provide to anyone who has been affected of the crime, including in terms of dealing with their family members, because there's a lot that goes through when an individual is going through that type of thing. We could go to the next slide. So after arraignment, we decide whether or not it was a misdemeanor or a felony, and then they're going to go through different routes throughout the criminal court system, and you can just start hitting the button. So the individual is arrested, they go to that complaint room. We will assess the factors in terms of whether or not that complaint or the allegation is sufficient. We may decline to prosecute it. We may do that in terms of having another investigation. We may do it in terms of looking at discovery applications. Then that individual is brought before the court. After that, we will look in terms of how or what is appropriate for that offense. We will look in terms of having some form of resolution. That's what it said, may state dismissal. That also could be whether or not it was sufficient in terms of the allegations that we bring. Then you will be assigned in terms of your misdemeanor cases. You will have a decision at arraignment whether you're charged with offense. How do you plead? They will likely state guilty or not guilty, and then they'll go to another part. And for the felonious cases, right, for that to be indicted, you have to present that to the grand jury. We go to the next slide. And in terms of a grand jury, this is what handles our felony cases, right? The grand jury proceeding is done in secret, and that is by statute. So if you are a grand jury member and you are speaking about what is going on in the grand jury, you could be actually charged for a crime. And this is all about ensuring that certain information is not leaked out, and as well as in terms of having your witness be able to come down and discuss with what is going on. For a matter to be indicted, there has to be reasonably sufficient. You have to have a standard of reasonableness plus legal sufficiency in terms of the evidence for you to be able to indict. Now, you have to have 23 citizens, you have to have quorum of 16, 12 must agree, and they will issue either what is called a formal indictment for that felony charge. Otherwise, they could transfer it to a misdemeanor court with what's called a prosecutor's information. They could issue a report just in general about what is going on, or they may state that it is a dismissal. We can go to the next slide. So there's a reasonable standard in terms of that burden of proof that I had discussed earlier in terms of legally sufficient. All of this in terms of together is really a probable cause aspect that we instruct the grand jury when we're presenting those matters to them. And that is all part of it in terms of what is going on in terms of the indictment. We have to bring several individuals there. It is secretive in terms of you'll have the DA, you'll have your members, and we'll discuss the facts. We can go to the next slide after that. So post arraignment, what occurs before you get to trial? And at any stage, an individual could always accept responsibility. For the misdemeanor cases, you will have either a guilty plea, then there's some form of sentence that is imposed. If not, you'll go into motions and hearings, and then you'll go to a criminal trial. Now, within the felony cases, you obviously have your grand jury proceeding. You'll have to follow that indictment with all the charges, and then you'll have a Supreme Court arraignment when you go into Supreme Court. Now, for all felony cases, you just have to understand within criminal court, they cannot plead guilty to a felonious indictment. Within certain aspects, it has to be within a sitting Supreme Court. Now, the motions and hearings aspect, that is where we really litigate everything else that is going on in terms of whether or not there was a proper ID procedure, whether or not we took statements, we can go to the next slide, please, whether or not we took statements or statements were taken properly, and whether or not, the items recovered. Each one has a different hearing. So MAP hearing is just in terms of a court case, and that deals with whether or not the property was lawfully recovered. So there are times where you may say, Gabriel, I don't understand, they recovered properly, it was a poor recovery, why are you moving forward with this case? It's because we're gonna have to litigate that. We're gonna look at everything and seeing whether or not that will survive. And sometimes that is another reason that we may have to dismiss a case, because the recovery of the property may not have been done properly, right? And so we had that fruit of a poisonous tree that would impact everything. And then if we don't have, let's say, that weapon or something that was recovered in that chain of custody that was missing, we would have to dismiss it as we would not be able to prove our burden beyond a reasonable doubt. And it's the same thing in terms of the Huntley statements, which it just really means like, what about if an individual wasn't read their Miranda rights? Now, these are all aspects that really go to demonstrate the checks and the balances that occur throughout the whole proceeding. In some cases warrant these hearings, other cases do not. And such as the way dealing with the identification proceeding, you actually have to have what we call a double-blind photo array in terms of identifying anyone, meaning that the individual who's giving the photo array doesn't know about what did not generate the photo array, as well as in terms of like that. So you have pictures that are going on with who is the accused and the generation of it. So there are other aspects just to make sure that there's nothing suggestive, right, in terms of about who is really there. We could go to the next slide. And I'm going to gloss over these because I know that time is limited. I think that a lot of you would much rather have a proper discussion about what's going on. And so that's why I just wanted to ensure that we have some time. Now, you had your burden of proof, which is completely fine. With each one, you have your probable cause standard, you had your burden of proof for your indictment, as well as for trial, which is beyond a reasonable doubt. And then you have your certain constitutional rights, which I was touching upon very lightly before in terms of the presumption of innocence, the right against self-incrimination, meaning that you cannot force anyone to take the stand, such as the defendant, in terms of that. They have a right to an attorney, as well as, and when I say the defendant, I'm talking about the accused, as well as in terms of deciding whether you have a jury or bench trial. And I apologize if I'm going quickly, I just want to make sure.
Who's the jury or bench trial? Is that the defendants or the judge or the you guys?
No, the accused and the defendant would have the ability to decide whether or not they would want to have a bench trial in certain aspect. For the most part, it will be all jury trials. Beforehand, that was part of the reforms that have occurred. And so you will traditionally have a jury trial unless someone allows to have a bench trial. And then, as I said, the guilt must be proven beyond a reasonable doubt. We can go to the next slide. So in terms of the criminal process, and keep going on, you have your jury selection for your felony cases in terms of how many jurors. You have 6 jurors for a misdemeanor case. You have your opening statements that people put on their direct evidence, then the defense puts on their case, and then you have your summations, and then the jury deliberates, right? And they decide what is going on. And then if an individual is convicted, there's a sentencing aspect. And that is something that everyone has seen, yes.
Is it majority? It doesn't have to be unanimous, right?
Unanimous.
It doesn't have to be unanimous.
Yes. Otherwise, it's hung. And so that is what they say in terms of a hung jury. So in terms of sentencing, this was some of the aspects that I told you that we're really stressing about, that pathways to safety. And we have a lot of other aspects that we have initiated within the DA's office. We have alcohol and drug treatment. We have a mental health court as well, we have a youth court, we have a veterans court, and we're engaging in what's called restorative justice, where we bring all individuals to the table to really discuss and really try to have that harm reduction. And these are aspects that we have seen in terms of the data demonstrate that really improves in terms of dealing with that recidivism and looking at that root cause. Now, there are also aspects when we will all acknowledge, Gabriel, you'll say there are times where enough is enough and the individual needs to understand what is going on. And so we do imprison individuals as well. But I just want to tell you the conditions right now in Rikers are pretty deplorable. And so we will look at that in terms of what is going on and the full sanction in terms of the individual being apprehended, arrested, processing time. We look at all of the aspects in terms of making our decisions when we're incarcerating, because we understand that there is a huge aspect that goes into it, as well as having that individual reintegrate in society post-sentence. And then there are other aspects in terms of what we can do in terms of this conditional discharge, in terms of treatment, and certain offenses carry fines as well. Think about that driving while intoxicated, while very rare in Manhattan. I heard in terms of your community board meetings, there are obviously a lot of individuals who are driving on the road. And so those are some aspects that require a fine.
Could you just quickly tell us about the mental health court?
Yes. So for certain offenses, we do assign and we look at it in terms of psychiatric records when we bring them to mental health court. It is more of an engagement in terms of really trying to assess what is the underlying root cause and having a more nurtured care of that individual while they're going through the process. So it may be going to one of our programmers in terms of disposition and really having that type of reference. But I am not a psychiatric professional, so I do not want to overpromise, overshare. It is just one of the aspects that we look at and looking at the facts of the case.
It's just about that. If one of the experts or the psychiatric people that make the decision, and just based on what we see, and you know the person is really a danger to themselves or a danger to others, can you impose the mental health court them and their recommendations on them? Or if they just say no, they go back into the subway and.
Yeah, the individual who's being accused of the defendant has to consent to that as a part of the disposition.
But if they're not in their right mind, they would normally sometimes be acquitted of something of murder because they weren't in their right mind. It's almost like a.
So there are a lot of different aspects in terms of it. It's governed by what we call 730 and seeing whether or not an individual's mentally fit. For a felonious case, that just means that they're going to be committed to a psychiatric institution. For a misdemeanor offense, that means that we're going to actually have to.
No, not institution. I mean, like forcing them to get the help where, like before that Billy Boggs case came up back in the Mayor Koch days when everything changed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
I do not recall that case.
Okay, I'm showing my age.
Yeah, and we can't.
But in terms of mental health court, that is something that we also have to make sure that the defense counsel and the actual individual who's being accused of the defendant is on board, unless it is a post disposition where we've already, had a conviction and we're stating this is what we're going to do. But traditionally, in terms of that alternative, we need to have some form of clarity. A lot of individuals do go to it. We've noticed that we may have to rebrand the name because that has been one hesitancy. Individuals do not appreciate if they're saying like you have to go to mental health court. So we're going to try to incentivize its use as much as possible. And we've been having positive results.
Do you offer use of guardians, or is that only a judge that would appoint someone a guardian, like a guardian ad litem or something?
I am not familiar with.
So like if the person, like what Mitch was speaking of, if the person is not in the capacity to decide for themselves whether or not they're mentally ill, the court can usually appoint a guardian to work with and have assessments done to see if the person can act on their own behalf, or if the guardian needs to act on their behalf, or find somebody in their family to act for
Or
them
somebody had
and decide.
somebody had dementia or something like that. It's a similar analogy.
So guardianship or conservatorship?
Yes, no, I completely understand that. So we are not able to impose, it would be the court.
It would be only the court.
But we would be able to state that based off of what we are aware, and also the defense counsel is aware in terms of trying to find those type of resolutions.
The rebranding might be a great idea for people that have that stigma about being categorized like that. So that might be a great idea.
Is this the last slide?
Yes, the last. And so this is the last item from our witness aid services unit, which I just want to really stress that throughout the whole time, we offer services to, all individuals who have been victims of crimes in their family in terms of giving emotional support, safety planning, criminal justice system support, social service referrals as well. This does not mean, even if we decline to prosecute a case, if we do not have all of the material available, you will still be afforded those services, and we do make those referrals at all time. I do know that I have gone over some of my time, but I want to answer these questions, so.
Before we go into all the questions, you mentioned at the start of your presentation that there were some things, areas where you wanted support, and I do see the recommendations here. So the ways that a community board would provide support would be by way of a resolution. I would recommend to the committee, if we were going to do a resolution in support of these recommendations, that we bring the DA's office back, I guess maybe December, and we bring them, and we also bring in like legal aid and or a public defender to make sure that we're not just, signing something that we're unfamiliar
We
with,
appreciate
that we
that.
have all the sides.
Here, we're here to educate. If it is a resolution, we can discuss it tomorrow.
No, we're going to the resolution now. I was just responding to his comment in the beginning, they were saying they need support, and it is one here in one of the documents. The only way we can provide support is by doing a resolution. So in order to do that and have it balanced, I personally would like to also, like I said, invite a public defender or legal aid or something.
Yeah. First of all,
Mariama, can I had to thank you so much. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up with you, what you were saying, Mariama. Sorry that I'm not there in person, but I would love to see and review the materials and what it is that the DAs are asking for, and then be able to ask questions about that specifically, because this was a great overview. I mean, being a lawyer, a lot of it I know already, but I'm not a criminal lawyer, never was. So it was a good refresh. It was good information, refresher. But in terms of specifics as to what this committee would do as resolution, I would want to just ask questions. But if I may ask a question in relation to the presentation, may I do that, Pat?
Sure.
So I guess as I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and you went like super fast, my biggest question is, someone does get arrested and it comes through your office, they get arraigned, bail is set or not set, and no bail, whatever. How much time passes before they come back for actually being that particular thing that they are accused of? And as you said, someplace along the line, you're innocent until proven guilty in this country. How much time passes before that initial misdemeanor arrest is adjudicated? And then in that time, more things could happen. And that's not made clear in the media. So part of what I guess frustrated about is people say, oh, bail, if everybody gets let out on bail, or there is no bail. And then maybe it's because we haven't adjudicated the first thing before the next thing happens.
Yeah, and to be frank, an individual can commit any form of crime at any point while they have a matter that is pending or not. And so during the time frame, the first adjournment, it really depends on the court's calendar. And so if, we have all the materials necessary, they may adjourn the matter for trial within a certain time frame, but the court really controls the adjournment date. We may make a request for something slightly earlier. I know that's not giving you the correct answer, but it should be approximately 30 days. And then during that time frame, you'll have your next adjournment period. You'll have your court date, the individuals come back to the court. The judge will ask, whether or not you'd want to plead guilty, and then we're going to go through those motion practices as well. So the life of a case could actually occur a lot longer in terms of how many cases go through the system. And so the shelf life for, a certain matter could take up to years. A lot of other ones, the majority of the cases do not, though. But there is a time frame that does occur, and that's for several different aspects in terms of from the people or the defendant in terms of that investigation with what is going on. Very similar to a civil case in terms of as being an attorney, you can know that you could have summary judgment very quickly, or it could be something that could prolong and prolong. It just really depends on the facts of the case, the individual, and what is going on surrounding it.
We have a good one. Jimmy, haven't asked anything.
Sorry, she asked around the discovery reform.
Yes.
So, just very quickly, which groups are advocating the discovery?
In terms of which group? So Jimmy just asked a question about the sheet that was passed around that hopefully will
That's
be
why I wanted to touch on that before we went into anything else.
make
That's
sure
exactly
that
why.
this is circulated to the individuals who are aligned, as well as at another time frame if you can collect it, since we have extra copies. This is really looking at it from, in terms of our perspective with what's going on. So I can really only attest to the DA's office in terms of what we are seeing and how this is impacting our cases in terms of going forward. I can't speak to any of the other individuals as well, but I think that if you were to speak with Nick in terms of the NYPD, they probably would agree. I think that you probably would have more individuals who agree as well in terms of what is going on with the discovery and that reform. However, I can only really share this is a product of the DA's office, and this is what represents the DA's policy.
So Jimmy, that's why I was recommending that we bring them back, but we also bring in like a representative from legal aid and or the public defender's office so that we have both sides present before we support anything. Yeah.
If we want to run.
So we could, back December, if you're available in December, we could try to do it then. That's our next quality of life meeting where we won't have GDC. And we can invite all the parties. We can start with this as a draft with what they're asking and then have input as to whether or not that's acceptable to all parties and makes sense.
I have two questions. When you're reading your document about the technicalities, the discovery technicalities that these cases are being, or that are being exploited for dismissal, are you able to refile?
It all depends. A lot of times, no.
And my second question was, like, I appreciate all the reforms that have happened as far as the sort of alternative courts that exist, but what happens, and I recognize that the purpose of bail is to get the return to court and not meant to be punitive. I guess my question is, when you have individuals who, whether let's use the shoplifting one, which generally seems somewhat organized, and you're talking about people doing it on a weekly basis. What deterrent exists if it's just a sort of, I won't say revolving door, but they're 24 hours and then it's the same crime over and over again. At what point, like what do you do about that? It's a bigger question than.
It is a larger question. I mean, the aspect that we're really trying to look at is that I would say for a majority of the individuals that we are seeing that are on those recidivist lists, there's usually some form of addiction abuse as well.
Right.
And that's what we're really trying to tackle as well in terms of having that. But addiction has always been something that I think is difficult. It's a public health concern, and we're really using the tools of the criminal justice system to try to figure out how to handle this and use it through those alternatives to incarceration to get an individual who wants to have some form of addiction reduction. We have seen that as well in terms of feeding that cycle and what they would do. When you see these steps, it gets fenced, right? In terms of just going out, and we've seen this, an individual could go into Duane Reade, steal items, then turns around to a local vendor that's right on the corner and say, do you want a case of water? And that individual say, sure, this is so much cheaper. And then, consumers are purchasing that water for $1. So it does occur. It's just really, it's a little bit harder in terms of always having that until they're ready. And we're using the tools that we do have in terms of whether or not we're seeing it elevated to a felony to really be able to engage in that alternative.
Are you going to ask for source as well? Meaning, they're sensing it's where that is paying for. Like, are you going after?
We are. It is a little bit harder because it's not as organized. There is a belief that, everything is sold either through Amazon or through certain organizations. It really is, going around your community to whatever local shop is willing to purchase it. And so that's a little bit harder, but it is something that we do handle.
I'm sorry, we have got to move on. Just left. Is it? Item 5. Okay, do we have someone?
Just Anthony, both of them left?
Give me, yeah, just, when I need to stay after 8 p.m. We're happy to provide it. It looks like they voted, Mariana.
Okay.
But more than
Do we
now.
have someone else on?
Yes, you have Tammy and you have. Oh, well, she left.
Well, Tammy, go ahead, Tammy.
Tammy, unmute yourself.
So the main question I have is when you have someone who's been arrested, who is homeless and not necessarily assigned to a shelter, where do they go and how do you ensure that they are able to return? Is there, you already discussed there's no sort of conservatorship or a guardian or anything like that. what connections does the DA's office make to ensure that these people know when to return, they are capable to return, and they do return? Like, what organizations do you partner with to ensure that the process for justice is able to function?
So, partner with what we call cases and to the cases that overseas supervised release. So we do provide funding, but we also partner with the bridge or peer navigators to really assess and deal with those issues. But one aspect, Tammy, that we have to understand is that what we can do unless that individual wants to engage in it, we can recommend, and we can have it, but unless it's the court saying that we're supervised release, where we haven't that supervised release, we're not able to make recommendations.
Apologies, but the sound is very odd. You're cutting in and out. For those of us who are remote, there's at least 3 of us who can't hear as I've seen notifications go up. So if you can slowly speak towards the owls, that would be grateful.
So what occurs is that we do make what is called a secure and order recommendation within the Raymonds, requesting what is called supervised release. We work with one of the providers called cases that would be reaching out and connecting with the individual. The Criminal Justice Agency also has a risk assessment that they do in terms of collecting that information. If the judge is not willing to do supervised release, that individual may be released on his own recognizance. And also we have to just be cognizant in terms of any other type of bridge or support that we do offer and we have invested in, that individual who's being accused also has to opt into the program aside from what we were discussing with the security order. So there may be an individual who has some form of, homelessness or mental health issue that comes in on the violation. We're not going to prosecute that, but we're going to try to make sure that there's some form of connection there. But that is really voluntary, and that individual would have to go. We'll provide them with information. Whether or not they attend is something that is outside of the scope of the tools that we have as prosecutors.
Okay, Tammy?
Not necessarily, because I think my question is, if it's outside the scope of prosecutors, whose scope is it within? I mean, obviously people can skip out of being prosecuted, people can skip out of being jailed, but going to trial. But what are the follow-up steps? If they are, there is no guarantee that they return, they opt out of everything, then they are just living on the street without going through the process. So what are the options?
I guess I have to say, Tammy, I think living on the street is a personal choice that some individuals do make willingly, and a lot of individuals don't. We do have a huge homeless crisis within New York City, right, that I have to acknowledge. And whether or not an individual is homeless does not always reflect whether or not they're going to come back to court. We really have to look at in terms of that flight risk and whether or not it's true. There are individuals, since New York City does have a huge homeless population, that come back to court regularly. And so I don't want to just state that simply because you're homeless, you're not going to come back to court, or that's an indicator. I'm not sure that's fair. We do look at it on a case-by-case basis. And when the facts warranted, we are making those applications for that extra intervention in terms of having, that supervised release where you're able to really have a conversation and discussion with individuals. Things that are provided immediately are Metro cards. People provide cell phones as well. So there are ways that we try to ensure individuals to come back.
We've got to move on. We have 3 more topics.
So we will invite you back, possibly December? Okay, yes, we'll invite you back in December. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Right to counsel?
Hi, yeah. I have a colleague, Alex Young.
Yes.
Is he online?
Okay. Give me 30 seconds to get my thoughts here. You have Julie, I'm muting her.
Yeah, and unmute Julie first.
Julia, go ahead.
Julia, make it quick, please.
Thank you. Sorry.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, the case that happened last Tuesday actually happened to my daughter. I'm a private person. I'm not enjoying any of this, believe me. I'm doing it really as a service to the public. I know that this guy has done this to other people. This is public information. The defendant, Gregory Holmes, it's public information.
Julia,
It's available in court system.
You can't mention names. Julia, you cannot mention names.
Julie, I would not be able to discuss with you in open matter in this forum. However, we would be able to, and I know that you've spoken with the signed already, but we would be able to speak with you offline outside of this forum in terms of any ongoing matter.
You can, Julia, you can contact our office and you can get Gabriel's number if you would like to have a private discussion. But you are not allowed to discuss the case.
An open case.
Right. You can discuss it in theory, but you cannot give any specific, like a person's name. So if you would like to have an offline discussion, we can provide you with a phone number, okay?
Peter, I have one last thing and then.
Okay, just want to thank everybody for the time. We hope we have been able to inform you more. And to the board and committee, we have other topics that we can come back and talk to you about, not just the rest of this position. But thank you very much to the committee for the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for waiting.
Coming.
Yeah.
I'm very happy being
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll talk about
Sorry about that.
Question for the chairs of the board.
Yes.
We have
I'll be back.
Jess and Anthony that are saying they need to leave. So are you now switching the agenda because now?
So what time do you need to leave?
Soon, but we're also asking to pass a
We
resolution.
have the resolution before us. Jess and Anthony are with the federal government. They have a hard stop. So if you don't mind, I'll take them first.
Which,
And can we make it quick?
which item?
Which item?
The World Trade Center.
Okay, so we're doing World Trade Center number 5.
Okay, so I'm moving over Anthony as a panelist just to get things smoothly. And I believe it's Jess B.
Is there a
Yes.
presentation?
Jessica
I
Billis.
don't know. So let me know.
Just talk, is it a quick?
Yeah, because they're working on it.
Okay, so whichever is going to speak on behalf of this issue, they can unmute themselves. And what, am I displaying anything on the screen or it's based on the resolution that you?
Anthony, you don't have any slides or anything, right?
This is Jessica. Can you hear me?
Hi, this Anthony is here as well.
We can hear you both. At least we can hear online.
I'm trying to turn on the camera, but at least you have audio, so that's great. We don't have any slides or anything to share. Just wanted to give some information about the World Trade Center Health Program and address any questions that there are. Back in this, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Please go ahead.
Oh, thank you. So first of all, we want to thank the Mariama for inviting us to the community board meeting for this opportunity. We wanted to talk about some legislation that Congress passed in late December of last year. They passed some language that requires the health program, the World Trade Center Health Program, to establish a youth research cohort. The youth research cohort, as required by law, needs to be of sufficient size to conduct research on the health and educational impacts of 9/11 on individuals who were 21 years or younger on 9/11. And it includes the disaster area, which is in the program is south of Houston, but the legislation also allows it to be outside of that area. So it goes up to 14th Street, as well as all of Brooklyn. So not just if anyone's familiar with the health program, there's a small area of Brooklyn that's included for the enrollment, but this actually extends beyond that to all of Brooklyn. So that's great. So the program has 2 open comment periods right now where we're accepting comments from anybody in the public. One is more tailored towards people who are contractors. However, anybody can apply to or respond to either opportunity. That one does have a later deadline, so I think that's more appealing for a lot of people. But there are 2 opportunities. So I'll speak about the first one, which is the opportunity in something called SAM.gov. It's called a request for information. So we're looking for ideas related to best practices, methods for identifying these individuals, these youth who were exposed on 9/11, as well as how best to recruit them. Any ideas for potential areas of research in the future? And that is the response to that is an email. So if people choose to have a private email sent to the program, that is the best way to do that. It is a deadline that expires at the end of October, so October 31st. The other opportunity is in the Federal Register, which is the federal government's, version of a newspaper. It's more tailored to the general public, but it's not a lot of people know about it. So we understand that it's a little bit more cumbersome for a lot of individuals. There is a process on that allows you to go into submit a comment, like a sub portal, but any comment submitted that way is public information. So we ask that people do not share any private exposure or health information that they don't want the public to see. That opportunity is open through the 23rd, so October 23rd. So we're close on that deadline. These are opportunities, like I said, that are open for anybody to respond to either one of them, even though the audiences are a little different. We just were trying to get the information to places where they would be most seen by different audiences. We have shared this with both the responder and the surviving steering committee. We've shared this through our websites, our social media, et cetera, asked for any community outreach involved in those entities to share as well. So we hope that there's some comments submitted for that, whether it's the community board as a group or individuals. It doesn't need to be formal. It can be any sort of level of detail that's able to be provided would be very helpful. And regardless of which opportunity is submitted comments through the request for information or the Federal Register, they're reviewed by the same individuals. So don't feel like people need to submit information to both opportunities. And I don't know if Anthony was going to share some links with more information. Great, thank you, Anthony.
Yep. Yes, I put them in the chat.
Thank you. We can also provide Mariama with some copies of, some links that can either be emailed if that's an appropriate distribution method as well. Just let us know afterwards. But I know we're short on time, but happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Jess and Anthony? Oh, Justine.
Hey, Mariama, I do. Yeah, sorry about that. And Jess and Anthony, thank you so much. Just a quick question. So you're asking for comments as to how to enroll more people or reach out to and connect with more people to get the information in. Is that correct?
So it's not specific to enrolling in the program. It's for this idea of this cohort, a youth cohort. So the idea is to create this cohort, which then could be used for future research. A lot of these people likely would be eligible for the program as well, if not already in the program. But the idea is, there's been a lot of advocacy over the years about underrepresentation of the youth population in the program and in the research that the program funds. So, this is the opportunity to identify as many people as we can that were exposed that meet the criteria of under 21 at the time and get them in that cohort. If they are eligible for enrollment, enroll them. If not, at least be able to identify the research topics to determine what impacts are affecting that population, which could lead to congressional changes down the line for enrollment changes.
So some questions that I've been asked from my own children who are eligible for both the program, would fit into your cohort, but their question is, why would I do this? What's, kind of like, not in a nasty way, but what's in it for me is the question. And so what is the youth cohort giving the enrollees? Or what is it asking of the enrollees if the giving is like being part of research?
So yeah, so like I said, it's not really clear. We're looking to establish the best method to reach. How do we recruit and understand that there are different incentives that need to be done to reach different populations? Obviously, there are limits within the federal government on incentives for a lot of research. But the thing is that we hear from advocates, and the justification for research in any part of the 9/11 population is that understanding what these exposures, not just what the immediate effects of them were, but the longer term effects were. I think the young population may not be feeling sick currently, but there are unfortunately a number of them that are starting to get serious conditions, may not be connecting those the same way that somebody who was down there for 5 months as an FDNY member would be connecting those. So the ability to identify these unfortunate outcomes as early as possible, to not just study them, but to be able to hopefully provide treatment to them, or if there's any sort of advantage to screenings for certain cancers that are done within the program. Just that hopefully that this good information can come from future research the same way it has with a lot of the responder and the survivor population in general.
That makes sense. That makes sense, because at the end of the day, part of it is to help themselves to further the knowledge in the cohort as to what could possibly be coming forward, so they can do more testing or whatever else, but also to help science, right? And help the future. So I think it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, no, we hope that certainly that as many people would be involved as possible, help not just themselves, but the rest of the population. And unfortunately, if there is anything like 9/11 again, which hopefully there is not, that the information from the research would be better able to prepare not just the response, but any sort of unfortunate outcomes from exposures as well.
Thank you. We've got, before we lose forum. Kimberly, hi. Are you here for this?
Yeah. Yes.
Go ahead. You want to say something?
Oh, I just, Mariana and I worked on this.
The draft.
Yeah, the draft. It may not be completely comprehensive, but it's pretty long already, so.
Which one are we doing?
Youth cohort.
Okay, no, I thought this was moving on to another, okay, got it.
So, one thing that Mariana and I realized when we were looking at, and I know these are going to be acronyms, et cetera, People Advisory Committee, okay, that's created by the World Trade Center Health Program, was basically charged with discussing and deliberating this question of how best to, reach, recruit, and retain this youth cohort. And they had a lot of great ideas, and I think a lot of those ideas are worth endorsing. And those ideas are summarized, not here, but in the actual draft reso. One of the things that occurred to us is that there is an emphasis appropriate on social media, on technology, on these wonderful new tools that we all have, right, to communicate. And these are tools that are especially appealing to the age group, right, that we're all trying to attract to this effort. But if you think about it, kids who were in high school on 9/11, their cognition is very different than younger kids. They were actually viewing, it was visible to them, the disaster and the impact of the disaster. But if you start to think about kids who were younger, then it may not be the case that they understand that they are in this group, that they are the ones being reached out to. They may not have ever really carefully considered that the disaster had an impact on them. So if they got like even the most wonderful PSA ever showing up on their cell phone, right, from the federal government or a contract from the federal government, they may be like, what in the world is this? So I guess Mariana and I were thinking about whether or not it was important kind of to have the community prime awareness here. So to create this level of awareness and understanding of this project in the community, and especially among parents in the community, who could then have conversations with the children.
If their parents don't live in the community.
If the parents don't live in the community. But see, again, the parents who were not living in the community, I think more likely to have the kids who were in high school at the time. Parents living in that community more likely to have the kids who were younger, who didn't have, developed commission.
sorry.
So anyway, that was part of the, it's text. That was part of our thinking around some of these, be it resolved.
So where we are now is if anybody wants to add anything additional, want to take anything out, if you think that, or if you're fine with it, we could vote on it. So we had some members leave, just for the public. We had some members leave that technically would have lost quorum. But our chair is on the line. She's sick though, so hopefully we can get through these as quickly as possible. But she is able to vote. She's given herself permission to vote, so that we can go ahead and get through these resolutions that we have here tonight. So if nobody.
Mariama, Jared informed us earlier he has a sick kid at home. So he was also, when he gets there, if his camera goes on, he can vote because he notified us earlier. If he got a call, he'd have to go because his kid was sick.
Jared's there. I see his hand up.
Okay, so we have two, we have Jared and we have Tammy.
Okay, so we have.
Okay, so, I just wanted to make that known to the public that we're not doing something funky.
It wasn't Jared.
Sung was sitting back there.
There we go.
I forgot the first name. Jimmy Sung.
Jimmy.
Yes, this is Jerry.
Okay, there we go.
Yeah.
I got it now, guys.
Okay.
Subways.
So anything that anybody wants to change, remove, add? If not, if somebody could call the question.
Motion.
Yes.
And we need a second.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, full members, right?
Second.
Don't we have to do a roll call?
Yes. Okay, so that's why I said, which one are we doing? We're doing the World Trade. Thank you very much. Getting all the names confused here.
World Trade.
Okay. Patricia,
Thank you, everybody.
Marianne.
Yes.
Francis is not here, Mimi's not here, Michael, Mitch,
Yes.
there's, Desi,
Yeah.
Brendan.
Thompson, yes. Brendan, yes.
I'm gonna move fast. Jared. Jared, mute yourself. And Tammy. So now we have.
Yes.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there's something missing there, miss.
Public member, Diane.
Oh, Diane, thank you. Diane.
Yes.
7, thank you, everybody.
The passes unanimously. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Jess.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good evening.
And thank you so much, Mariama, for the invitation.
Feel better, Tammy.
Just want to acknowledge that we'll be asking for public input throughout this process. So once we have ideas for, different options, we will bring back those options to the community for input as well. So look forward to talking to you all again. Thank you.
The deadline is October 31st. That's why.
In terms of like promotion, because I think you made a valid point about
Yes,
the
yes.
age.
Yes.
The group
But
you're
did you think that
targeting.
we needed to add something of what kind of promotion?
I don't think it.
If you do come up with something, bring it up at the full board. And then we can make an amendment, friendly amendment. Okay, right to council, sorry about that.
Yeah, so I was saying my colleague Alex Young is.
Can you move Alex Young to panelist?
Sorry.
Okay, 30 seconds, then he's
So which one was?
Right to council.
And also, did you get the slides that we sent?
I have 2 musical poets in one right.
I think I did see an email with slide before I left.
Who am I moving? Okay, Alex.
Alex, yes.
Moved over. Okay, then I'm gonna go to the closet to see if I find this.
Is there,
Oh, yes, this one.
is there an extra?
Support, right to.
Yeah.
Is support of right to counsel of all New York State residents.
Yes. Okay,
Okay,
let's go.
let's see, this is it. Let's see. That's it?
T-shirt, tenants, yeah. Tenants,
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So now let me get it here. Everyone, place here because.
So
Yeah.
Alex and I are doing it.
That's not it. I'm sorry. That's not it. It's the one that says CB1. Or do you want me to?
It's about tenants. He sent it this morning.
This one, okay.
It's
Now,
Manhattan CB1.
and share. This one. All right, that's it.
Perfect.
Can you show me how to do a full screen again?
The bigger button. Okay, perfect. Alex, can you speak?
You ready?
Yes, I can.
Possibly or not? Okay, no worries.
Alice's face.
No, we can't.
You can't do that if you have the full screen.
Okay, that's fine. So hi, good evening. Thanks for having us. My name is Brianna. I'm a campaign organizer with Right to Council Coalition. Alex, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alex. I'm a tenant and I'm part of the coalition.
I'm sorry, just to be clear, the public is seeing something different than what we're seeing right here. So people see his face and your
Oh,
face.
okay, got it. So we're here to talk to you this evening about our coalition, what we're fighting for, and 2 resolutions that you have presented in front of you in favor of our statewide legislation. Oh, sorry, 1 resolution in favor of 2 statewide bills.
Okay.
So, can you hit the next slide, please?
Next slide, please.
Next slide. So, first I'll introduce what the Right to Counsel Coalition is and does. So we are a coalition that formed in 2014. We're made up of organizers, activists, legal service providers, tenants, unions, and more. We formed in 2014 to pass a citywide Right to Counsel bill that we won in 2017 with the support of Mark Levine. And we're the first city in the nation to pass Right to Counsel for tenants in housing court. Many, many more have followed suit, about 17 in the nation. So we're a leader and we should be proud of that as a city. Next slide. So what we're fighting for today is for 2 bills. One would pass this legislation statewide, and it would advance the New York City legislation in a few ways. A, would make it a universal right for tenants. Now it's capped at 200% of the federal poverty line. It would also provide 200% of the federal poverty line. It would also provide lawyers for tenants who want to take their landlord to court, who are living in unlivable conditions, and need affirmative defense. And it would also mandate that all tenants who have a right to counsel will get the time that they need to get this right to counsel. And that last point is also what our Defend RTC legislation does, which is the last point on this slide. And we're fighting for both because this Defend RTC legislation is it's budget neutral, and it would also fix some of the issues we're seeing with the legislation citywide. So can you click the next slide? So yeah, why does this law need to be defended in New York City, and what are the issues that we're seeing? When tenants do have a lawyer, this legislation is incredibly effective. 84% of tenants who have a lawyer stay in their homes. It changes the power of balance of power in housing court. Most landlords have a lawyer. Most tenants typically don't. About 55% of tenants are going unrepresented in housing court and are not getting their right to counsel. We found that since January 2022, when the eviction moratorium lifted, about 36,000 tenants have gone unrepresented in housing court. This crisis is happening for a few reasons. One is that there's a national labor shortage of housing court attorneys. That's something that we've been dealing with nationwide. Another reason is that the courts are choosing to calendar cases faster than attorneys can represent them. So while attorneys are working to hire more lawyers and to fix this crisis, they need more time to represent tenants. So this Defend RTC legislation would mandate adjournments for tenants who are eligible for right to counsel but haven't received an attorney. Another thing I have to mention is that we need this to be statewide law because housing court is a statewide entity that that citywide law can't mandate them to follow city laws, local laws. So we need this to be statewide. And if it were statewide, then we could mandate that court administration slow down cases to match attorney capacity. Yeah, and I have to emphasize again that right to counsel has been incredibly effective in New York and has advanced tenant protections, but it needs to be furthered.
Are you asking that more tenant attorneys be hired or?
We're asking in the statewide bill for more funding be provided to hire more tenant attorneys, but our Defend RTC legislation would be specifically to slow down cases for tenants where they are eligible for an attorney, but haven't received one yet. To make it an actual right to counsel.
Right, so the problem is that there are not enough attorneys.
The problem is that they're not attorneys, but also that these cases are being seen by the courts without tenants having an attorney.
And not
They
enough
can-
funding. to
But I
have
mean,
necessary
right,
money.
but let me get this straight. So normally when you go to court, housing court, do you have an attorney, a tenant attorney?
About 55%, like I said, of tenants who are eligible for an attorney are getting.
Because of their income.
Because they're not being, because there aren't enough attorneys to see these
So
tenants.
they're eligible, but they don't actually get one
At the pace that the courts have set. So this problem can be fixed
by slowing down the.
by slowing down
the pacing of
cases.
court. Now, did the pace speed up? Is the pace faster than it used to be? Or is this the regular pace that it always has been?
It's not faster than it used to be. This is a normal pace that it always has been, but housing court cases move faster than any other civil case. And that doesn't have to be the case.
And so you think because
Can
of.
I ask a question? I thought that it was going faster because they were trying to push stuff through after COVID. There's a big backlog. I thought that was part of the issue.
There's a backlog, but it's not, we haven't found that cases actually have been going faster than they were pre-pandemic. Or there aren't more cases.
Just whatever the standard amount of time has been, that's still too fast for somebody to get a lawyer because there's a shortage.
Because
So that while you're waiting for a lawyer to become available, your case has already come up.
Is that has there always been a shortage?
This law passed in 2017, and then there was a rollout by zip code. Once the pandemic happened, they got rid of that, but as you know, there's an eviction moratorium. There weren't as many cases
And then
at
the
all
courts reopened.
as there were pre-pandemic.
So
And then that's why we set the measurement of 36,000 tenants have gone unrepresented since January 2022, when the eviction moratorium was lifted.
So I remember reading a while ago, even before bringing this up, that the people that show up to court without a lawyer, they're 1,000 times worse off because they don't know all the legalities, all the tricks, and it's almost like a no-brainer.
So did everybody have an opportunity to read the resolution that Justine?
What's his name at the presentation?
It's, yeah, you
There's a little bit more,
I'm
but,
sorry.
We're gonna, yes.
There's two people left.
Yeah.
We need to vote.
we can wrap it up and you guys can ask questions and vote.
Well, is there other pertinent
You're ready to
information
vote, I'm
that,
reading.
in the slides? that
She said if we're ready to vote, she's okay.
Okay, so did everybody read the resolution?
Yes, motion.
Is there? Second. Okay,
all right, hold up. Slow it down. Slow it
You need to slow down the process.
Okay, so we have.
Tell me to go fast.
Okay.
My freaking don't go that
Yeah,
fast.
let's let Lucy catch up to us. Same with the amount of lawyers. Let's let Lucy catch up. Okay, we're ready to vote. Give Lucy-
Okay, and this is
So
the
this
right
is
to
the
counsel.
right to counsel.
Okay.
Yes.
Any opposed? Any abstentions, any recusals, motion carried.
Tammy and Jared, you're okay?
So, yes, on the screen, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank
you so much.
Sorry it took so long.
So this will come up again at our full board meeting next Tuesday.
So, there's a Manhattan Borough Board vote happening
Thursday.
on Thursday,
Tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Oh, right. Yeah, we can do that. Okay.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
But we may come back to you with more questions.
Okay.
Okay. And who's your colleague online?
Alex.
Alex, thank you.
Thank
Sorry
you.
had to wait.
And sorry we had to rush after that.
Okay, thank you.
One last
Okay.
The Medicare.
We don't have anybody in the room from the retirees. I know Denny Salas is online. He's their, attorney, Denny Salas.
I guess it's the phone.
Is there
I see the phone went down.
You have to unmute.
Take whatever you want.
Hello, whose phone number is? Oh, who's?
That must be the person.
Okay, I don't wanna.
Go ahead.
Denny?
Somebody's recognizing. It's Debbie, unmute yourself.
It is. You just have to unmute yourself.
You're a panelist now, Denny. Just unmute yourself.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, everybody. Hopefully, you're all having a wonderful evening. In the interest of brevity, I will be as quick as possible and give a really brief summation about all of this. So before you is a resolution to support a city council bill called Intro 1099-2023. In essence, what it does, it basically sets a floor on the quality of health care that a municipal retiree can receive as they're grandfathered in by that date that's stated in the legislation on December 31st, 2022. Brief background on this particular issue. Back in 2018, former Mayor Bill de Blasio decided to make a deal to cut healthcare costs by targeting seniors and current municipal retirees. And he did so by agreeing to with CVS Aetna to implement a Medicare Advantage plan. This has gone through several, I'm hearing WebEx talking while I'm speaking, so I apologize for that. So subsequently, our organization that I'm, full disclosure, I'm a lobbyist for both the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees and also AARP. But this organization for public service retirees, they have subsequently won 5 lawsuits, the most recent one being a permanent injunction issued against the city of New York to force municipal retirees into a Medicare Advantage plan. The state Supreme Court judge, Judge LaFranc, found that these seniors were going to be irreparably harmed. They were going to be so because they were going to lose access to their doctors, hospitals, and healthcare treatment facilities, some going through some very serious ailments like cancer, dialysis, and the like that happens when you get a little bit older. So at this point, you should know in full disclosure that litigation, since the permanent injunction was issued by the state Supreme Court judge, the city has now appealed it. We are now looking at potentially 3 to 4 more years of litigation. About a couple months ago, the legal bills for these seniors was over $200,000. So we do recognize that legislation is basically the quickest and cheapest way in order to solve this issue. We not only have the city council legislation, but we also have legislation at the state assembly and state senate. And just recently, I've been able to introduce legislation introduced in the federal level, first in the U.S. House, and I'm working on the U.S. Senate currently. But for this particular resolution, strictly pertains to the city council legislation. I'll stop there just to answer any questions, and I can, give more background. Yeah.
Danny, I'm not sure I understand, because it says, whereas the proposed plan would draw millions of dollars away from traditional Medicare to a privatized MAP. If you are 65 and over, you're eligible to Medicare. How does?
That's correct.
I'm not sure I understand what the problem is. How can
Sure.
either the Medicare be denied, or how can they be forced to use something other than Medicare?
It's a great question. So it's actually at the employer's discretion. It's a deal they either made with the federal government, or since Medicare Advantage plans were created, an employer can choose to have the retirees go into a Medicare Advantage plan. That is, but moreover, recognize a little bit of the history with New York City. Since 1967, and Mayor Joe Lindsay fully paid for health care for municipal retirees have always been the case. So it's not only paying for the Medicare coverage, but additionally the Medigap coverage. So for that 80%, the 20% difference between the 80%, the Medigap plan also has been fully paid for.
So there,
now, some of the numbers also that, yeah, go ahead. Please.
Yes,
we're talking about the supplement.
yes.
Okay, so the
That's correct. That's
what? Okay, so what you're saying is that they're being forced to take, they can't elect to do Emblem Health or whatever. They're being forced to take, what is it?
An Advantage plan.
An Advantage plan.
That's correct.
Okay,
The Medicare Advantage plan.
Just explain to us why that's a problem.
Just like the Supreme Court found, we had nearly 1,000 affidavits submitted from municipal retirees across the country. So when you are in a traditional Medicare plan, nearly 98% of all doctors and hospitals across the nation accept traditional Medicare. When it is a Medicare Advantage plan, it's a for-profit privatized company, so their networks are narrow. Just like if you currently have a privatized or private health insurance plan, you're not covered. Not every doctor accepts that particular plan, so it's the same thing with the Medicare Advantage plan. So that is the number one issue, because you have municipal retirees that obviously not all of them still live in New York City. They're all over the country, and a lot of their doctors don't accept it, where they currently accept traditional Medicare. So that means if you're going through an ailment, I'll give you a perfect example. That was one of the affidavits. We have a former FDNY firefighter who was there at Ground Zero during 9/11. He is now going through kidney replacement. His current doctor flat out told him, if your plan gets switched to a Medicare Advantage plan, I can no longer treat you because I do not accept MAP plans. I only accept traditional Medicare or other type of insurance. But the ones that the city was forcing upon them, which was a CVS Aetna Medicare Advantage plan, that doctor was not going to accept it.
And why can't traditional Medicare be your primary care and the MAP be your supplement?
Yeah, sure, go ahead. Yeah.
I know the answer to that.
You have a letter?
Yeah, please go ahead.
I'm sorry, why can't you elect to have Medicare as your primary and the MAP as your secondary?
Because your employer has to offer that. That's the simplest answer to that.
No, but I mean,
or your former employer has to offer that.
I'm sorry, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought when you turned 65, you could elect to have Medicare as your primary and the GAP as your secondary insurance.
So yes, you can have the GAP insurance as an offer, but what I'm saying is that traditional Medicare, whoever your employer was, they're the ones that paid into the system in order to choose whatever your plan is going to be. So for traditional Medicare, if that's what they wanted to do, they still can do that, but they can also switch it to a Medicare Advantage plan if they wanted to. All these companies get massive amounts of subsidies in order to switch into that privatized health plan. So you can, I would say this, you have an option though too. As an individual, you have an option because a lot of your former employers, whatever it may be, if you're a current retiree, still offer a Medicare Advantage plan because that's part of the network offering, whatever it may be. So you still can choose to have a GAP plan also. Also, let me just add that almost all the GAP plans are private companies anyways. So if you're talking about that 20% gap, that's all private companies anyways. So you can also have traditional Medicare with no gap plan.
Only for the 20% gap. So in other words, 80% would come out of Medicare, traditional Medicare. Yeah. And we're talking only about the 20%. Yes. Okay. So
No, not No, not with the municipal retirees. Municipal retirees, we're talking about that Medicare plan being replaced to a Medicare Advantage plan.
Fully?
We're talking about that. We're talking that 80% being replaced to Medicare Advantage, not the traditional Medicare. Yeah.
But what I don't understand is traditional, I thought when you turned 65, Medicare became your primary.
federal law.
By federal law,
Not city.
became your.
But these workers were promised their Medicare plus their Medigap plus everything, so they wouldn't have to pay anything. So now, if they want to stay on regular Medicare, they can, but now it's gonna cost them
But they
more.
won't have a 20%.
It's gonna cost them more to have the other thing. And because it's a private, it's privatized, then, and they have to get, referrals where regular Medicare
Gotcha.
doesn't.
So the 20% is not covered unless the doctor accepts this.
Right, no.
Understand.
Not unless the doctor accepted, that you have to pay a premium when you apply for something. To me, it's almost like a simple contracts case. You worked for 30 years, you were promised on your employment, whether you agree with Medicare or Medicare Advantage or not, if you were promised something in your when your place of employment, and then 30 years later, you've given your life to that.
What I'm
and then
saying,
you change
I
it.
get it. But
That's
what I'm saying is that you get your traditional Medicare.
Right.
But the 20% is what they're messing around.
Right, you have to pay a
Got it,
premium
got
for
it,
that.
got it. Okay, so, yes,
Well,
we should vote.
Well, I think
All understand
what he's stating as well as too, is that it's part of what was part of the promise is going to be a fully paid for healthcare benefit, meaning that all those premiums, everything that goes along with trying to have Medicare Advantage was already paid for by the city, and they worked for decades for the city. Now they're saying if you want to stay on Medicare, the digital Medicare, that means now you have to pay out of pocket. And if you choose to go there rather than Medicare Advantage plan, and knowing that the Medicare Advantage plan is an inferior plan, that you're losing access to your doctors, healthcare facilities, and hospitals, and now you got to pay out of pocket, which is again, it's like you mentioned, your promises are being broken.
There might be some people
Yeah,
that
and to let you know, and I'll say this too, that this, I just want to add to that.
You don't have to.
Sorry, go ahead.
Public benefits package, you're finished, you moved to Florida now.
Right.
And now you're in Florida with cancer.
Of
And you're
course.
getting 100% treatment, and all of a sudden they say,
Some of
hey,
those for-profit plans are more apt to deny coverage that the federal wouldn't. So to me,
Okay,
it's
so we get it.
no-brainer.
It's time to move on. It's 10 to 9.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to tell us, Debbie, before we vote?
Yeah, absolutely. So this actually every single piece of legislation that we've introduced has been endorsed and supported by AARP. So AARP has issued not only a statement and an op-ed in support of just the city council bill, but also state legislation. And then 2 weeks ago issued a statement supporting our federal legislation as well.
Where are those great Panthers?
In this room.
What's that?
I'm sorry.
all right, can we call the question?
Call the question.
Second.
Yeah.
Give us time to catch up.
Meltzer abstains.
Any abstentions? Meltzer.
Thompson.
Any opposed?
Thompson abstains. Brendan.
You're abstains.
Jared abstains.
Okay, so any opposed?
No, I can't vote, right?
No.
Who are we talking?
No, just
Justine, I can't vote, so okay.
So you don't have a, yes, you don't have a excuse absence.
Okay.
I, Diane, have to recuse because I'm city employee.
So then everyone else is a yes?
Yes.
Well, I'm just curious, just for my education, why would you have to recuse? You haven't, you're like, just because you're a city employee,
Because she's going to be.
Because it's a financial benefit.
okay, that's some.
I support the resolution, but I.
That's some real.
On record.
Looking against it.
Four in favor, 3 abstain, 1 recusal, motion carries.
All right.
Okay, I think we're done.
Okay, you're not.
No.
We have budget.
Oh, budget.
Yeah.
We decided we weren't gonna, oh, there was one thing. But we said we were gonna make sure we're back on the.
Does anyone have, while we're thinking about this, does anyone have anything that they think should come out of the quality of life committee as a budget item?
It seems that all the budget items were denied as for lack of funding, even though they might support them. When I was skimming through some of these things, it seems that even if the funding request was deemed justifiable, it cannot be determined at this time because the funding cannot be determined at this time.
You have affordable housing?
At least that's how most of them look.
Do we have affordable housing?
If anyone would like me to project it on the screen, let me know, but the document was emailed out to everyone.
No, Pat.
On the screen.
Oh.
I don't see it.
Sorry.
What can we add for it? What it would be the,
Affordable housing.
Is affordable housing in there? Because if not, we need to put it in.
yeah, I'm not.
I didn't see it as being.
Just say allocate funds for affordable housing.
But we don't have funds to allocate for affordable housing, but we want.
We have funds to
We want them to allocate funds to affordable
See what
housing.
we're saying here, allocate funds to increase surveillance. I don't even know what that is.
Balance on what?
Who are we asking to allocate the funds?
The agency that's listed.
Debbie, who are we asking to allocate funds for affordable housing? Who are we asking?
We can do that. Tammy, you're supposed to be-
It's in there. You know what? If Lucy, if you make me host, I can share the Airtable.
Has anybody seen it?
No, it's not on the document.
Not on
Well,
this.
that's the one I was given, so. There you go, Tammy.
Lucy, make me host and I'll try and share.
I did. You did 30 seconds. You have it?
I'll share my screen. Give me a sec.
Oh, okay, never mind. I see it. Answer me. You can.
You want me to share it, Tammy?
Just give me one sec. I apologize.
Anybody, while Tammy's looking for it, is there anything, any other area that people think we should put coming out of the quality of life? Bathrooms?
Okay, hold on. You ready? Let me.
That's good. You have to answer.
Okay. All right, tell me if my share screen's working. You guys okay with that?
It's coming up. It hasn't showed yet, but there you go.
Thank you, Justine. Thank you, Tammy, for displaying that.
Okay, so on the, you'll see, there's a highlighted column. That's everything that is right now assigned through quality of life, no matter the agency. So for example, increased funding for mental health and outreach to the population. Let me pause this for just a sec. I apologize. I'm gonna try and make it bigger on my own screen so I can see.
So
Well,
we're
right,
at
that
that,
is-
next
okay,
$200,000 a year.
Or rodents, or garbage.
So if you see, for example, the top one, it's DHS currently funds programs, more about, resources with the district. It says mental health outreach to the population of homeless veterans. We talked internally and at this meeting of changing it to not be homeless veterans, just to be homeless. Right? Outreach to homeless because we have so many more who are out and about.
But we're looking for the affordable housing.
Yeah.
It's in here. I'll get there.
Guess it's hard to find affordable housing in
Also, I
CD1.
get texts from Adams, remember the
Yeah.
text that we,
Tammy, are you making that change to that item or am I just writing it down for an edge?
and his.
Write it all down. We'll get the changes done tomorrow.
Sorry, I didn't hear you. Excuse me, guys, excuse me, I didn't hear you.
He said they'll change it tomorrow, write it down. They'll change it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you very much.
Do they have anything
I
about
like
the cobblestones?
Years old, those all.
Pat, do they have anything about the cobblestones?
I think that's in, another.
That might
That's a
be,
DOT.
that's a DOT.
Okay.
Not DOT,
Transportation.
but yeah.
Yeah. I know affordable housing's in here because I looked at it earlier. There was turning Gateway into an, here you go. Establish a program with the aim of preservation of affordable housing in Battery Park City
Battery Park City.
Oh, just remember 1760.
for HPD. Let me do it
Yeah.
back up.
Oh, we're just saying I have a rat update.
It's
Okay,
here,
thank you.
rats on here, there's rats.
We always have rats.
Yeah, yeah.
I said-
Here's 3 of them for HPD.
Reporter, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but she's still trying to overcome this.
That's another one, affordable housing. But what about affordable housing every place?
Yeah, why did it say Battery Park City?
I'm loving that it's Battery Park City, but we need to make it every place
It's-
too.
Instead of within CD1.
Take a look at the one after that, please.
Yeah, okay.
Income
And
restricted.
Community District 1, okay.
I see, I'm not seeing what.
I mean, I can't
Establish a
read
program
that.
with the-
Build restricted income, district income.
And the other one is establish a program with the aim of preservation of affordable housing. Oh, again, in Battery
In
Park
Battery
City.
Park
Why the
City.
two Battery Park City one?
The Battery Park City Committee probably threw that in there, but we should put the same thing for every place too.
This line, Justine, let me go through if you don't mind.
Mm.
So you had one link, which was Battery Park City because of the loss of 421A and G through Battery Park City. The second one was to build mix of different size housings throughout the community board. And the third one was for preservation. There's also another one in here that talks about NORC housing, which I'd have to find. I don't remember the agency.
That's on the printout.
Yeah.
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 Anything else you need me to move around and look at?
Do we need to put on World Trade Center number 5? Do we need to say anything about World Trade Center number 5 in our budget?
You need to identify the top needs on what you think, and then at exec tomorrow, we'll go over the top, 5 needs. Unfortunately, what the city currently does is they don't allow you to do the top needs per agency, which would make a lot more sense. You prioritize based on your global needs and then you number them within. So even if we said we think that affordable housing, for example, is the most important thing that we have and we need for a budget priority, you have to look and list it in how you're looking at all the others.
Makes sense.
I'm not sure if it's on there or not, because I couldn't read it. But the affordable housing programs that are already existing, where the 25 or 30 years is coming up shortly, is there anything there?
There's no more of those programs.
Yes, there are.
Where?
Tribeca Tower is what was 80/20 building.
That is.
Yes, I know it very well. The buildings that were like, I've done a 25 or 30-year programs that were like.
They're expiring because
They're expiring. No, some of them did and some of them didn't. Some were 25. So the ones that are expiring, some type of language to induce them to re-up or for, other breaks for
I'm
them.
not sure that's part of our budget, though. How do we go about what?
I'm asking you.
And 421A ended, like, I don't think, did the government make a new thing?
There's no new 421A.
The ones that exist after 30 years, they're expiring. So in about 2 years, 1 or 2 years, I know of 1 or 2 buildings.
Mitch, it has to be an expense or a capital budget, not policy. Neither one of those, unless you rephrase it in a way.
So if you have any ideas, I would just want to bring that up. Tammy, explained it to me, but if you have any ideas how to bring it up, fine, if not.
Well,
then-
we'd have to identify an agency that we want to fund these.
Yeah, maybe it's more policy, like Tammy said.
Well, yes, because 421A was a policy that is going away, done.
Right, but the building that is,
So I'm saying it can't be renewed. You're saying like you want it to go, it can't be renewed, so.
so what are the people that are living in that building, if the
It's gonna go to
management.
market rate unless the government makes a new program.
Okay, so I was just trying to bring that up, if there was any other way to mention anything, but maybe it's just
No,
policy.
that would be a reso for us to write, that we
Okay.
want a new policy put in place.
So that was something that I would like to suggest.
Okay, but it's not a budget.
Okay, thank you,
So then, yeah,
thank you.
so let's bring it up as. We were not. Okay, so, but we have to bring it up in a different topic.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there anything else in the budget though? Okay, we're all right?
We have to.
Jared, wait a minute, Jared, anything you want to add to the budget?
Sounds like
Unmute
it's okay.
yourself.
No, not at the moment, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Justine, was there anything else?
I'm good. Thank you so much.
We could use some lighting under the Brooklyn Bridge at Pearl Street. Pearl and Frankfurt, or maybe between Rose and Frankfurt.
You mean city lighting?
Yeah,
So who handles lighting?
I don't know.
Which agency?
Should that be part? What type of lighting?
City lighting.
It's the bridge itself, but the bridges.
But you mean street lighting?
Yeah, street lighting underneath.
The street, maybe DOT.
So
I don't
then,
know.
yeah, what budget then, that DOT provide?
Find out if that's on the task. Well, no, that's on the task.
Well, if it's a bridge issue, would it?
No, it's under the bridge. The bridge is safe anyway. so-
Hang on. Let me look.
Yeah.
I'm looking. I know that there is something about lighting at the arches. I'm looking.
Excuse me.
Safety.
Okay, this is for DOT, Pearl Street beneath the Brooklyn Bridge, Dover, Frankfurt to Robert F. Wagner Place. Pedestrian crossing improvements and lighting.
So you have it. Yeah, which
Right.
committee did it matter?
Just by curiosity.
And is it maybe, is it the police? Is it because it's maybe a safety issue?
Lucy, can you put a note on that Pearl Street beneath the Brooklyn Bridge to revise the verbiage to request for better lighting and traffic
Yeah.
control?
Pearl between.
Is that coming out of our committee?
That might be Avenue of the Finest.
Do you want to check on it and send it to me tomorrow, or you want
Okay.
or you
I'll
can
make
bring
sure.
it up at the exact tomorrow?
Okay.
To be here?
Mhm.
Yeah, so you'll have better wording?
Okay.
I appreciate that.
Going once, going twice.
Wait, any new business, any old business? You're right.
Okay, right.
Rats?
Well, should we adjourn first and then you give us news updates?
It's fast.
She wants it on the record. The pizza guy.
Oh, you're talking
That's a pizza.
Frankfurt this time.
Yeah.
Look ahead.
It's, so it says that residential trash containerization is coming this summer. Your trash will go in a bin instead of a bag piled on the sidewalk. Sidewalks will look and smell cleaner.
I don't know how it's gonna happen.
No more dinner time buffets for rats. And this rule will cover 95% of residential properties.
Because rats can't eat the
But
bins.
we don't know how it's gonna happen, because when you have a place like Spruce Street, what's the name of the Geary Building, where you have the Alps of garbage, how are you going to get that in the bin? But we need to talk
Don't know
about
what
that.
size the bins will be, but that's.
But then the bins will take it more.
Right. Well, yeah, the problem is
The Alps of garbage.
the bins are actually, the pushback on this is that some of those bins will take some of the parking space.
Yes.
More parking disappearing.
And then they already made some kind of announcement that those are not permanent, that like in 2025, there's a different bid. So like people have to invest in one thing and then something else is coming.
All right, we're gonna ask Department of Sanitation to come in, put it on here,
Those big belly bins seem to, be pretty good.
to discuss. But that's not, you can't have that for, I mean, that's not.
No, not every place, but some places.
No, but we're talking about buildings,
Okay.
private residents.
Sorry.
To discuss, decided to discuss, container. Okay, we are adjourned.
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 Thank you.
Good night, everyone online.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Tammy, you feel better? I'm glad it wasn't until 10. It's 9.
Yeah.
We will make an effort to
Um,
not.
Yeah. If, are you stopping the recording?
You need to stop it, wait.
On a second, stop the
You done?
recording.